Good evening, everybody. All the AJEETS. I'm so happy. I'm so happy that we are back again after a long gap. As far as HUBBALLI-DHARWAD Association is concerned, we had a long gap.
Ages? It's like ages.
Ages, right. So I need to really thank Nimi sir for initiating this and being ignited by many people. I'll not take the name. Okay, so nice to be again back after COVID times. Of course, all AJEETS, we are all blessed because we are back again. We have lost many AJEETS, lost many family members, but still, God felt that we are worthy of being here, and He has asked us to continue our journey. So today, it's a wonderful session, okay, and we have Talwai sir with us. It's always a blessing to listen to him, because we may take years to know what all he tells. We have to gather so much information, then contemplate it, then see how it can be used for us. But when he comes with a lot of knowledge, with all the experience that he has, he really hits the nail and it ignites many of the youngsters like us. To begin with, my dear friends, right, AJEET friends, senior friends, COVID has taught us a lot of things, right? And post-COVID era will not be the same era as we think. A lot of new jargons have come, new words have come, like biotechnology, nanotechnology, okay, artificial intelligence, then augmented reality. The whole world is going to transform into a new world, and it will be maybe an automation age that is coming up in the future. And unless we are updated, okay, upgraded, I think we'll be out of the market. That is what I was telling Nemi sir when we were traveling. I said, the biggest challenge that we have today is not to become irrelevant. Biggest challenge, that's the only challenge. And the other quotient, like intelligent quotient, emotional quotient, all these quotients were all there in all these years. But now we need to know how to manage adversity quotient, because we don't know what will happen tomorrow. Right? Because this is a transformation, a lot of sacrifices will happen. We should be open to that. So learning is one thing, and getting it, from the best people is always a good thing. And if you do it in particular timing, I think it will help us. Okay. Just to brief today's session, just to give a background for this, I'll only state some statistics as an educationist, because see, I am a human mindset coach, and I work throughout the country to transform lives, and my mission is to touch 10 million lives in my lifetime. Okay, touch, move and inspire. So with that background, since I work with education, I'll only put forward some basics for this. There are 950 universities in this country and 51,000 colleges, approximately. 4.2 crore students study every year now. As on today, with all the streams, IIT, IIM, whatever it is, medical, ITI, PUC, whatever it is you take, almost 4.2 crore students study as on today, whether offline or online. Out of that, it is said, this statistics was given by Mohandas Pai, right? And he said, like, out of this, 88 lakh students pass out every year. 88. Approximately 88 lakh students, including all engineering, everything. And only 8 lakh students, either they get employed or self-employed. The big challenge is what will happen to this 80 lakh people. 80 lakh students who are student power, with a lot of energy inside. They have a lot of desires, dreams, but they want to do something. They are not fit for it. And when this resource is not being used for the proper, it will not be utilized for the proper things, then it may be used for the wrong things also. That is the threat that India has to do. So in that regard, we have a wonderful session today, okay, where promoting secondary agriculture, and it is for the jobs and income. This is what is the topic we are looked for, and Dr. Ashok Dalwai is one of the experts in that, and he has done a lot of research on this. Not just research, but he has done a lot of action-oriented things, right, during his tenure. and now also he is doing it. So he is the right person who can ignite us and inspire us, and what can be done so that this jobs and income can be looked into. Okay, so with this regard, we have a session today. And last thing I want to say before I hand over to Niminath sir to welcome is, gone are the days, my dear friends, where sacrifice was used. That my parents sacrificed for me and made my education. And if I use it for my son, then it is not going to apply. Sacrifice is an old adage, it cannot happen. Now the new thing is, they say like, I sacrifice my life for you, and I compromise. Sacrifice involves a lot of compromises. I ate one roti and gave one more roti to you. Today's generation, it will not work. And for a post-COVID, it will not work. Today's quote is, this is what I got it from the net, and it was told by Jim Rohn, a wonderful trainer of trainers. He said, today's quote is, I develop I for you, you develop you for me. I develop myself for myself, but for you. So a parent, a father, if he says, I will develop myself so that it will benefit you. So each one of us, we develop. So the new word is self-development. We have to develop ourselves. And in that regard, today's session is organized, a learning session, okay, knowledge session, okay, with the advisor, who is very approachable, lovable, okay, and with actions. There are a lot of people lovable and approachable, but no actions. But one person who inspires me individually is his actions. But always I question myself, when he can do it, why I can't do it? This is what, as a youngster, I look for. So this is the session. I think we'll have wonderful things. And all the people who are online, welcome. Of course, we can't see you, but you can see us. But we'll have a wonderful time. Sir, now I request Niminath sir to welcome the gathering.
Good evening, everyone. A warm and hearty welcome to all those who have made it here, to all those who have made it online. The pandemic has played the spoil sport and delayed many of our programs which we had planned to do earlier. So now it is almost a year and a half since we had any get-togethers. So last week we just thought of having Jyona sir came up with some idea, and then sir was anyway, Dawai sir was here. So we thought of coupling up this program, and I'm sure it will reach most of the way. Last moment we added this online thing so that it goes to the maximum people in this. So in this regard, I would like to welcome you all once again. Especially, first I would like to welcome Dr. Dharwad for having spared his time. I would request Jagdish Nandi to welcome him with a flower. Secondly, actually we are going to have one major session is going to be what Dharwad sir is going to talk about and address about. Later on we will be having a small discussion which may go on till what time we don't know, but it is our AAA institutionalization which he's been trying to drive along with Gopal Osu sir and Viriji sir and his classmates, all the batch. It's taking some real nice shape and we are seeing a lot of action. There's a good drive behind it. But then we need to have some more our local seniors to be who are gracing this occasion. So I would like to welcome, there's a small anecdote I would like to say. 3 days back I posted CDR Shillong, and then suddenly I got 8 to 10 calls. And one veteran, he grilled me for 15 minutes. He said he is CMDE. So I said, sir, I don't know what is CMDE and CDR. Every time we see CDR, he said, you are demoting him by 2 ranks. CMDE is equivalent to brigadier. So you cannot afford to do this. So by the time he spoke to me, 7-8 messages arrived. So I was thinking by evening I'll be court-martialed or crucified. So finally again I put in the group that I wasn't aware about this, and the next post I changed it to CMDE, with due respect, sir, we were not aware. You
You
are,
can observe it.
sir, that is what I told 2 or 3 of this. We have been calling him CDR only all the time, and but they were very strong ones. I'll let you the names after. 15 minutes. I was in Nipani and I was grilled for 15 minutes. So anyway.
No, Ajit can be on my bad.
No, sir. But this is small things, but I think you are.
Irrelevant.
But I just wanted to share this because by evening, even from our rear admirals, I got the calls. Ones who are handling those big ships. So it was that kind of, the attraction was there for people observe so many things in small things we put. So anyway, I just request Mali sir to welcome Shigaon sir. Both of you from Haveri districts. Dharwad, yes sir. You are old, all of us are old Dharwad district. Then we have Sri H.G. Patil, ex-old CEO and Registrar of KL University and now heading KL Medical College project in Hubballi-Dharwad. So I would like to welcome him. Prakash, you will please. So my take for this evening is we have got 3 retired people but who are very, very active, a lot to learn from them. Especially H.G. Patil sir is still active, handling big projects. Shigaon sir is active with his work and all social work. Dharwad sir is anyway going to be. Sir means officially, but he is still on to that so many of these things. So my take from here would be that my batchmates and 2 batchmates down the line are on the verge of retirement. And we need to follow these people to see how much active they remain and how much value still they are adding. That is what, instead of just whiling our time at all. So I think I will conclude over here. Again, a warm welcome to everybody and have a nice time here.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. What you do and what you get is not important. What you become is important. So let us know what the advisor has become after all these years. And we have Jagadish Nandi sir, who himself is an entrepreneur. He's an uncommon man. Okay, left his government job and created his own infrastructure company. And I asked him, what is that, how much work you do for a year, sir? He said around 8,000 crores. Okay, so nice to me. And is it not inspiring, my dear friends? Sir, Nandi sir, please introduce our guest for that. Not guest, our Ajit, the advisor.
I think you can identify the difference in height. Sir, good evening to everyone. And a warm welcome to today's function. It's my privilege to introduce the chief guest of the day, Dr. Ashok Dharwad sir. I think Dharwad sir doesn't need any introduction particularly to Ajit fraternity, but just as a formality, a few words. Sir passed out from 1975 in science school. Then he pursued his studies in University of Agricultural Sciences for both degree and post-graduation. And he did his doctorate in economics. And later on, he has been confirmed honorary doctorate both from his alma mater, UAS, and also RDPR University at Gadag. He initially joined IPS and later he joined IAS in 1984. He has served in the states of Odisha and Karnataka and later on in the central government since 2010. He has served as Secretary to Government of India in various departments and various ministries. And he has contributed very immensely to various fields. Just to name a few, particularly when he was in Karnataka, I think he has been the architect of self-assessment schemes as Commissioner of BBMP. And of course, he remains and continues to work as Chairman of the DFI and is CEO of National Rainfed Area Authority. He is continuously consulted by various states and center over all the various reports which he has made. I have gone through many of these reports. They are something like a Bible in the agriculture related fields. And as our friend said, it's very difficult to even understand even 10% of it. So best thing is to hear from sir to see the conclusion, how best we can utilize that. Sir, also he was actively involved in development of Aadhaar along with Dr. Nandan Nilekani. And if you observe any of these initiatives, they were pioneering and innovative approaches. Maybe once it is done, we might find it very simple. But before commencement itself, to think of those ideas, initiate, develop a strategy, and come out with a very actionable points, it is something ಎಲ್ಲ ಮುಗಿದ್ಮೇಲೆ ನಾನು ಹೆಂಗೋ ವಿಚಾರ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ ಅಷ್ಟೇ. But very difficult to think before commencing it. And in spite of his very, very busy schedule, I am sure everyone will agree that he takes a lot of time to respond to everyone. At least I know he responds to AJEETS. Other friends, he must be responding equally in the same measure. And it is very, very great attribute. I can't see, at least I don't know anyone else who responds so immediately to anything. You just put a SMS by evening, you will certainly respond in a personal manner, not a very general comment or anything like that, whether even on being a birthday or anything like that. So someone who tracks your achievements, and he gives a good advice also whenever these things are there. And more than that, he has remained very, very humble, even to this day about all achievements. I think you don't see any of those things in spite of all these achievements. And more than that, now he has taken the mantle of institutionalizing our AAA. Even when this is done, maybe we'll be talking something like what we're talking of, either Aadhaar card or something like that. Because to institutionalize a system like this certainly will take a long time, and it will also need a lot of energy and ideas. So I'm sure when this is done, we will have a very good item which will be a model for many other people. Yeah? And we're very grateful for him for sparing all the time whenever he's here in HUBBALLI-DHARWAD or in Bangalore. Yeah? And this is a very, very brief introduction about him. Otherwise, it can be just say, Dr. Dharwad, Ashok Dharwad sir, that is enough for introduction. Thank you.
Thank you, Nandi sir. We have two sessions now. One is the first session, sir will be speaking to us on agriculture, okay, and that will be for 40 minutes. Then we have 20 minutes of question and answers. The second session will be on AAA, okay, institutionalization of it. Definitely that is very important today because the new word is membership economy. New economy is membership economy, and we are hitting the nail at the right time. And good or bad, people like it or not, this is required need of the day. World requires it. Right? So, sir, I request you to take up the first session.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone on virtual platform. Good morning to those who may be across the Atlantic Ocean. So the best thing would be to say Namaskar and Pranam, that is neutral, and also absolutely in sync with our own culture. So Pranam to everyone. Thank you very much, Mahesh and Nemi, Jagdish, for all your kind words. I recognize the presence of my seniors here, my squad leader Shri S.G. Patil, our senior, grand senior Siddhing Swami, and Commodore Arvind Sikka. All three of them, we looked up to them at school, and we have been friends thereafter all through these decades. I also recognize the presence of all of you here, my own friends and younger friends. And certainly I would like to recognize everyone whom I can't see on the virtual platform. It is always a homecoming to be with the AJEETS. AJEETS constitute a family. And a family does not necessarily mean by blood. In fact, a family by blood is more accidental. But a family by friendship is one of choice. But this AJEETS family is still more unique. It is a blend of both accident and choice. It is a destined accident that we all joined Sainik School, Bijapur. And therefore, the foundation for our relationship was built. And then we chose to remain friends. And therefore, there is a double advantage of this AJEETS fraternity. And I always prefer to call it as destined. The reason being that Sri Ma of Aurobindo Ashram, she says that nothing happens on this earth by chance. Everything is destined, including whom you meet, at what point of time you meet, and with what intensity you meet. For some it may look superstitious, but I think considering her spiritual evolution, we must give due credence to the words of somebody like her. At least I would certainly like to believe what she has said. So let me thank you for organizing this evening and giving me an opportunity of interfacing with all of you and speak about agriculture. Agriculture is something that there is no single person on this earth who is not connected. One is connected either as a consumer or as a producer. But certainly he or she is connected with agriculture. So there can be nothing else as universal as agriculture. The second point that all of us must remember, that human civilization began with agriculture. While it took billions of years for the first Homo sapien to come on earth, as one of these 5 species of humans, not just the single species, even as early as 35,000 years ago, we had at least 4 human species on earth. And finally, the competition has led to survival of 1 human species, and that is we all, Homo sapiens. But this species, Homo sapiens, also took not less than 20,000 years to understand that there can be settled agriculture. So for 20,000 years, the Homo sapiens wandered through the forests. They gathered fruits and roots from the forests. They hunted animals and survived. But it was very recently, just about 10,000 years ago, that man or human, let's say, in fact, woman is the first agriculturist, not the man. But here when I speak about man, it is generically man, Homo sapiens. So they understood that there are certain seeds available in the forest which we now call them as wild races. They can be sorted out and sown, and therefore we can have a raised cultivation. They also learned that there are certain animals like sheep and goat which could be domesticated. And honestly speaking, it was animal husbandry which preceded crop cultivation. So animal husbandry followed by crop husbandry gave rise to settled agriculture, and started producing a sense of security for our people that we can generate our own food. Once man learned to generate his own food, he began to settle down to a quieter life, building his own huts first, building small settlements, growing into villages, and then many villages thereafter. But just come to think of it, that for all these 10,000 years, to this day and to this point of time, agriculture has defined our civilization. It has defined the civilization and also defined our culture. There's always a certain difference between civilization and culture. Civilization in that sense is more gross, whereas culture is more fine. The way we talk, the way we behave, the way we sing, the way we interact, the way we talk, or the speech itself, these are all aspects of culture. Whereas civilization refers to the more gross form, the way we build our houses or towns, for example. But both these aspects have all been shaped and sharpened by agriculture. Now, without dwelling too much on what has happened in the past, I would like to speak with you about the present and the future. And once again, I must emphasize that agriculture is going to be the pivot of our civilization. We are at an inflection point today, particularly in India and even other parts of the globe. For the last 250 years, we thought that we can bid goodbye to agriculture. Ever since the first seeds of industrial revolution were sown in England, we thought that we can say goodbye to agriculture, and therefore all the economists and economic models of Western society are built on one simple principle, that the parameter of success of any economy is the number of people dependent on agriculture and the share of agriculture in the nation's GDP. And they have given us an equation which is inversely proportional. That means lower the number of people engaged in agriculture, lesser the share of agriculture in the nation's GDP, more developed that particular economy is. Therefore, we have today UK where not more than 2% are dependent on agriculture, where USA where not more than 4 to 4.5% are dependent on agriculture, and similarly European Union not more than 6% dependent on agriculture. And all these nations, the share of agriculture could be around 2 to 3%. And so they keep telling all of us in Asia and Africa that you also need to aim at that particular destination. The logical argument that will flow from this particular premise is it possible for India, now let's talk about India, is it possible for India to reach that particular destination where we will have only 6% or let's say 10% to be more liberal? Should we have a situation where only 10% of India's huge population will depend on agriculture and the share of agriculture will continue to decline and become sometimes 3 or 4%? So at least my premise is that it is not possible. There are 2 reasons. I hope I am proved wrong, but at least today I believe that those 2 arguments will hold good. The first one is that given the elephantine size of India's population, which is still growing and will touch 150 crores by 2050, it would be almost impossible to shift such a huge population from agriculture to non-agriculture sector. The second argument is that given the new emerging technology, the big data analytics, artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, sensors, drones, and many more technologies that are in the offing, is it possible for us to continue to have the same number of people engaged in agriculture or even in non-agriculture sector. These technologies are highly labor substituting. But then somebody may say that this is a positive disruption. So every technology has proved to be a positive disruption so far, including in the 1970s when we introduced computers in India, there was so much of protest. But now we realize that even the substitution of labor by computers has actually generated many more employment opportunities in a different nature. But then it is now seen that the kind of technology that is emerging today is very much unlike the one that we had earlier. It may not be possible for us to continue to disrupt to such an extent as to neutralize the job opportunities and create newer opportunities. The third one that we must all remember is that Western society was able to do it because they were colonizing powers. They colonized Africa and India and other parts of Asia. They were able to have a captivated market, captured market, and exit the raw materials from here and give us back the manufactured commodities. Indigo, for example, from India. There are many more such raw materials. So these three things, population, the emerging technology, and the impossibility of having a colonization. Afghanistan could be an exception. But by and large, these three things which are going to define the new way of life in 21st century and thereafter will not make it possible, or at least will make it very difficult for us to shift people from agriculture to non-agriculture. And let's say that I am proved wrong, or everybody who says like me is proved wrong. There's another new challenge, and that challenge is something that nobody can deny, and therefore they will have to come back to agriculture, and that is linked to global warming and climate change. Climate change has been happening over billions of years. Thanks to climate change, there is conducive environment for human existence. We have passed through severe cold, ice age, for example. So climate change is not bad all the time. But the kind of climate change that we are going to see today is on account of global warming leading to rising temperature. And all that has happened only because we in the last 250 years, with the onset of industrial revolution, have been burning fossil fuels. We have been mining and extracting fossil resources. They're all highly energy intensive, not energy efficient, energy intensive. When we depend upon such energy intensive resources, the only outcome is emission of greenhouse gases, methane, carbon dioxide, hydrogen oxide, and many others. So these greenhouse gases have been warming our globe. That means man-induced climate change is quite different from the natural climate change that happens over millions of years. We had one, for example, in 12th, 13th century, a climate change which was a dip in the temperature, particularly in European nations. In fact, England had not been able to practice agriculture for a long time in 12th and 13th centuries. So it keeps happening. But the current climate change, which is human-induced, is sending us a message that don't depend too much on fossil fuels or fossil resources, coal, iron ore, bauxite, copper, etc., etc. So this is going to entail a shift from industrialization based on not non-renewable resources but renewable resources. So when you talk of renewable resources, it is something that can be used and grown and reused in a very quick span of time. For that matter, coal is not renewable. It is renewable, but it will take you millions of years. We don't have 1 million years to live. We have at best 100 years to live. So we really don't know what is going to happen after 100 million years or something. So let us be bothered about what happens in this year, next decade or something thereabout. And therefore, a renewable form is something that can be produced biologically. Something that requires formation of carbons and hydrogen, etc., and takes millions of years is not renewable. That's the point that we must all remember. Hence, agriculture is going to become a sine qua non because it is something which is biologically producible, it's something that is physiologically feasible, and therefore we can raise raw materials which can be used, cut, felled, and grown and reused. So these 4 things that I wanted to lay before you as a context so that we understand how agriculture can become the new source of raw materials, and therefore it can propel the industries, and therefore it can propel the civilization, and therefore it can enable continuous evolution of culture. So it's all an organically linked life on this earth, at both sociological levels, at physiological levels, at psychological levels, at even physical levels. Alright? So if we have understood this particular thing, let me come to a little more concrete thing. That let's come to farmers of our country. That all of us know that everybody is crying for farmers. That the tears could be real or could be crocodile, but everybody is crying for farmers. And everybody in the world over is crying for farmers. Now the Indian situation today, when I say today, not exactly at this point of time, but it is, let's say, in the new millennium, over the last 20 years, is exactly what it was in United States in 1984, or what it was in European Union a little later. In 1984, the United States suddenly found that there was no market for their produce. The prices began to dip. The farmers began to protest. So the Minister of Agriculture or the Secretary of Agriculture in the United States called a team of experts to seek advice. And they told only one thing, that today Africa and India, or at least many nations there, have begun to produce their own food. Nobody is asking you to ship your produce to us. So no exports. Second, your technology is improving so much by leaps and bounds that the productivity is rising. We will continue to produce more and more from the same unit of land, from the same unit of cattle, and therefore we will have surpluses. After all, no government on earth can afford to buy everything that the farmers produce. After all, what are we going to do with that? We can't have an unsustainable system. So market forces become very important. Market forces mean supply and demand operation. And the basic economics teaches us that if supply exceeds the demand, then the prices are bound to dip. And that's what had happened in America. And that is what is happening in India today. Today we have surpluses of supply or demand. Yes, we also know that we are importing rupees 70,000 crore worth of oil seeds to give oil and edible oil to our people. That does not mean that we don't have surpluses in other segments. We have surpluses of carbohydrates, paddy, wheat, etc., etc. That we have deficit in one segment is a solid state of our own policy making, our own sorry state of incentivizing or disincentivizing. That's something which is correctable. But what is important at the macro level is that food as a segment is surplus, and therefore the farmers are not able to get right prices. There are many other concomitant issues, we'll not get into that, I'm just giving you a macro picture. So the only answer today for us is to find new markets, new demands. So should we create demands linked only to food? When I say food, carbohydrate, proteins through pulses, edible oils through oil seeds, or minerals through fruits and vegetables, or other kinds of amino acids through other kinds of agriculture products. The short point is that we now need to balance supply and demand. It does not mean that we start cutting down on the supply. We have to produce more and more. But how do you create newer and newer kind of demands? So that new demand will come if we are able to create new nature of demands. And that new nature of demands cannot be linked only to food, only to fodder. It has to be linked to industries. So my argument is that if we want to create jobs and we want to create incomes linked to jobs, we will have to convert agriculture fields into new mines of coal and iron ore and bauxite. It is this raw material that is going to feed a new industry. And that new industry is going to give us the biomaterials. It is going to give us the bioenzymes. It is going to give us the biofuels. You can have fuels either from the petroleum products dug out from earth, or you can have fuel through ethanol and methane, etc., all produced from our agricultural raw material. You can have this building built either using stones or bricks, or you can use a wood, or you can use a composite. You can have various kinds of enzymes for our labs and industries or textile industries, produced either from the fossil resources or chemicals, or you can have them by converting our agriculture produce into enzymes. So, the new chemistry, the new bioengineering, the new biotechnology, the new bioprocessing, all these things will make it possible for us to use the raw material generated through a biological process and not depend continuously on the fossil resources which have been built by Mother Earth for over millions of years. Now when we shift that kind of an economy based on new industrial processes using renewable forms, then we are not going to see an exhaustion. The first win is that we are going to create new demand for the farmers. It is not somebody who wants to make rotis or chapatis is going to ask the farmer to give 2 kilos of jawar or ragi or bajra. It will be some person with an industry producing dextrose, a kind of different kinds of starches, who is going to ask the farmer, can you give me jawar? Can you give me maize? Or somebody wants to make an agar, he is going to ask the fisherman, can you give me seaweed? So the demands are going to be new, different nature, and new time. So when we have this kind of a new demand for new kind of agriculture produce, automatically what we are doing is expanding the horizon of market. Today market is APMC. Today market is our oven. It is our mother and wife and sister cooking bread for us. But we want people to be setting up new towers and consuming lakhs and lakhs of quintals or tons of the agriculture produce to produce all these materials that I talked about. So if we want a new demand, because demand is the key to creating higher prices, a new equilibrium in the market will be created only when you have a new demand. Those who have studied economics know that demand and supply will be crossing at some particular point, and we want that striking point to be at higher level. If that is to happen, the only way is to create new demands. I am repeating that because I want that particular thing, as I think Jagdish was saying, many a time, every truth is simple by hindsight. When Newton, for example, talked about the law of motion, it looks very simple today. But that truth is simple only because we now know it exists. So even this very simple truth, that we need to create a new demand for agriculture material, would be very simple by hindsight when it happens really after, at 10 years hence. So the friends, I think we now need ourselves to reorient. And the first reorientation has to happen at 2 points. One is at the policy level, and the other one at the research and development level. Our scientists, both in the domain of basic science and the applied science, including agriculture sciences, are all beset by a very conventional approach that agriculture is meant to produce food, that is meant to produce fodder, nothing else. At best, we talked about fiber because traditionally India has been producing fibers using cotton or silk or jute. Nothing beyond that. To illustrate this, let me give you one concrete example. You know Spain, a small country with a small coastline. And we know India, a large country with a long coastline of 8,401 kilometers. You are the master of the seas. Now, we make agar in our country. For that, we import seaweed from Spain. Imagine, with so much of coastline, we are asking Spain to send us the seaweed. And we make agar, but then agar is something which can be used as an intermediate good to produce the next level of material called agarose. And further that can go up the value chain to produce a more sophisticated commodity called saffrose. I am just giving a concrete example to only illustrate that there is no end to the frontiers of science. There is no end to the frontiers of technology. But what kind of science do we want? What kind of technology do we want? Will all depend upon what kind of policies we adopt. So once you adopt a policy that I want my farmers to get more money, more incomes, I therefore create new demands, then possibly down the line, the first starting point, the agriculture scientist or the basic scientist will say, how do I produce new varieties of crops, new breeds of animals, which is going to give me more of other products and not just milk or not just grains, not just fruits, not just tubers that we have been eating for all these thousands of years. So we need to reorient science. We need to give greater value to all kinds of products. In our hierarchical mindset, a grain is more valuable than the straw. A fruit is more valuable than the leaf. When we adopt a horizontal mindset and not a hierarchical one, then we will start giving equal value to both fruits and the stalk, or the cotton lint and the cotton straw. Because physiologically both are same, there is no difference. We can use both to produce something. And therefore, Honorable Prime Minister said, when we are now talking of waste to wealth, waste is not a waste. It is a waste because our mindset is wasted. We have treated something as wasteful and something as useful, whereas everything is useful. So once again, a truth by hindsight is very simple. It is not complex. So friends, what we need to do is reorient our policies, reorient our science and technology. For that both to happen, the minds have to be reoriented first. Ultimately, everything originates in the mind. You may call it as lying within the domain of spiritual world. No. It is actually connected to the everyday material world. And it can express itself in the way we apply that science and technology, the way we use our resources, the way we live. If we can reorient ourselves, then we'll be able to create a new opportunity for our farmers. And this brings me to today's topic of secondary agriculture. I'm only just going to give you the contours of it, of all these things, to make, because we should not be talking anything in compartmental manner. When we talk in compartmentalized silo format, then we don't understand the other things. And that has been one of the banes of our system, that we have not looked at things comprehensively, not as an ecosystem. We have been looking at in divided, compartmentalized silo formatting all the time. So when we talk about secondary agriculture, what does it mean? All of us have been taught in school that the economy, there are three types: the primary economy, secondary economy, and the tertiary economy. And in the 21st century, we have got 2 more economies now, based on knowledge. And then the last one, the 5th one, is based on concepts. So there are the new economic domains that have been added to the 3 economic domains that we had all been talking and we were taught. Within these first 3 economic domains or economic sectors, agriculture is considered as the primary economic domain. Along with that, of course, forestry. When I talk about agriculture, please remember to keep in mind forestry, because forestry is not anything different from agriculture, except that it grows more naturally than the husbanded agriculture. Otherwise, the systems of growth, etc., is all same both in agriculture and after all, we have come from forests. We have husbanded that crop. We are trained it to become smart, softer, more sublime than the more wild forest. Otherwise, there is no difference. So when I talk about agriculture, please remember that also includes forests. Okay? So agriculture and forest, they are considered as primary economic sector. Taking agriculture as a primary economic sector, the primary produce, once again, the grains, the fruits, the vegetables, the roots, the tubers, the milk, the meat, etc. These are all called as primary products. And then we have something called byproducts. As I said, stock, a paddy straw, a jawar stalk, a cotton stalk, or a skin of an animal, the viscera of an animal, the bone of an animal, the hair of an animal. All these things are called as byproducts. And we have neglected these byproducts as though they are touch me not. If you look at traditionally also, who came and collected the hair? There were people coming from village to village, a tribal society coming and collecting that hair, adding value to that, including the human hair, and used it for producing a valuable product. So these byproducts also have a value. So now secondary agriculture is something that talks about using the primary products and the secondary products in a more meaningful manner. So the first principle that we must understand. The second principle is that secondary agriculture aims at producing greater value for the farmer. And in the bargain, it creates options for jobs, leading to more of incomes. How does that happen? Today in India, a farmer on an average is engaged in a year for 185 days. That means out of 365 days in a year, he gets jobs for 185 days because it is season bound. During the southwest monsoons or northeast monsoon based agriculture or irrigation based agriculture, he gets jobs because he is engaged on his farm. But 180 days he has no job. He is idle. So he has to look for options to work as a skilled labor, unskilled labor, semi-skilled labor under the Narega. Or his wife has to put up a small grocery shop around the corner. Or somebody has to come and wear a security guard's dress and salute you as you walk in and walk out. These are all not very respectable kind of jobs that we are giving to our people. That he does not get 180 days of job in a year means that we are wasting our human resources. The human resource is the first asset that our country has got. The second asset, land, is a basic asset that we have got. And the land, or any resource for that matter, will be useful provided we use it properly. So that is defined as cropping intensity. That means if I have an acre of land, can I use it once, twice, thrice, 4 times in a year? If year is the unit of measurement of time. If I can use it 3 times by deploying proper science and technology supported by infrastructure like irrigation, then my cropping intensity is 3 times or 300% as it is called as. It can be 200% if I use it 2 times. If I use it only once, it is 100%. India, it is 154% today. But Karnataka is lower at 122%. That means a lot of land in Karnataka is wasted. And in India is wasted. So if we have 140 million hectares of land today, if I can raise the cropping intensity from 154 to 200, we have effectively made 140 million hectares, 280 million hectares. So likewise for cattle, likewise for fish pond, likewise for any water body or any other resource. So if we can start bringing efficiency to our two basic assets, land and human power, then we will be adding that much of wealth to the nation. After all, ultimately what is it? It is creating wealth for the nation and creating in result incomes or purchasing power for the individuals, whether it's farmer or non-farmer. So secondary agriculture is talking about creating gainful employment for people in the domain of agriculture, either directly or in linked manner. So that is possible through what is called as secondary agriculture. The secondary agriculture is based on processing. You all heard of processing for donkeys' years. So you might think that I'm talking nothing new, or anybody who's talking of secondary agriculture is talking of nothing new. No, it is something new. Processing is very important. Processing can be of two types, food processing and non-food processing. While many countries, particularly in the Western society, have progressed very much in the processing sector, India has lagged behind. Our percentage of food processing is 9%, around 9 to 11%. That means around 11% of our total agriculture raw produce is processed, but confined to food. In non-food sector, we have made not even a baby step. Even the Southeast Asian countries like Malaysia, Indonesia, they have already attained 30% processing in the food sector. Leave alone Europe and USA where they have gone up to 80%. So what we need to do today under secondary agriculture is food processing and non-food processing. Why? If our aim is to create jobs and therefore link it to incomes, it calls for creating jobs. You know, it looks like a riddle. We can have incomes in two ways. Either government keeps on giving the people some money every month, or tells no, I'll give you a job and you create your own incomes. It is worth to remember that Chinese proverb, don't give a man a fish a day, teach him how to fish so that he will go and catch his own fish. That will remove feudalism, that will remove dependence, that will improve dignity. So what we need to do is to give incomes to the people through the job route. And processing has that immense potential of creating jobs. Even at a very low level of 9 to 11% of food processing in our country, a high of 5.4 million people are engaged in that sector. Our steel, our aluminium, our power, they don't employ this high number of people. Today we have a 1 million ton of steel plant. You don't need more than 1,000 people. I'm sorry, now they're down to 400 people. So we can have 6 million ton steel plant at Vijayanagar. That gentleman cannot give more than 3,000 employment directly. All other jobs created are all dependent, transport sector, service sector, etc. Whereas when we put up the Rourkela steel plant in 1954, we had 24,000 people working when the capacity was not even 1 million ton. That was a very conventional, conservative technology. Today the modern technology does not need people, which proves what I said in the beginning. That we can have, today India for example has got around 94 million ton steel capacity. How much can it employ? And we have about 150 crore people. Where are they going to be finding jobs? So I told that food processing at a very low percentage of 9 to 11 is generating 5.4 million opportunities. So if we can increase the processing, which is required in any case, we will be creating that many more jobs. And when we diversify from food to non-food and start producing all those materials that I talked about, biomaterials, bioenzymes, biofuels, etc., not only are we creating jobs, we are also creating a more eco-friendly material for our economy, and therefore we are also in a way addressing the issues related to climate change. So look at the kind of virtuous cycle that we can build, create a win-win-win situation, a number of wins, win for the farmer, win for the consumers, win for the society, win for the ecology. You can have any number of wins. It all is left to our ingenuity and innovations. So we now need to really look at afresh. So if we can do this kind of a secondary agriculture, where does this happen? Now, because as you as entrepreneurs, or those of you who are interested in enterprise, maybe wanting to know where can you actually build this kind of opportunities. So here, we have all heard of Mahatma Gandhi, who talked about rural industrialization. He always talked about creating robust health at the village level so that there is more of emotional bonding among people. There is no need to create a stealth and slum in some faraway city. There is no need for distress migration where there are sociological problems because families break. And then more important, what we see today in Bangalore or Mumbai or Hyderabad, even in Hubballi, is ALUMNI. Very proudly all of us say, I don't know my neighbor. Whereas earlier in villages, all the women sat in the evening, brought their rotis outside, sat on the parapet wall, talked and ate and went back. Today that is not there, it's all ALUMNI. With ALUMNI you have psychological problems. So today in America, we have more psychological problems than physical problems, health problems. In a poor country, we may be having problems relating to physical health, but there the problems are relating to psychological health. So are we creating or chasing material wealth to invite psychological problems? So, not dilating too much, if we can create that kind of robustness of economy in the villages, at the village level, I think we'll be able to create a much more healthier society. So what did he talk about, or what can we talk about? You know that in the industrial segment we have got micro-industries, we've got small-scale industry, medium-scale industry, then large-scale industry, and then mega-scale industries. So hierarchy keeps growing. And this hierarchy is a function of the intensity of the technology usage, intensity of the capital usage, primarily. So we can't afford to have highly capital intensive and technology intensive industries all the time. We may have some technologies, we may not have some technologies. So micro industries, small scale industries and medium scale industries, or what is called MSME sector, is possible in the agro processing, both within the domain of food processing and non-food processing. Now how does that happen? When you talk of micro, it is at the farm level, at the cottage level. When you talk about the small scale, it is at the village level. That means we start aggregating the produce to feed one small unit at the village level. In the farm level, it is using the raw materials generated on my farm for my own manufacturing facility. When I talk of manufacturing, it could be simply making pickles. Now, this looks very simple. I remember as we trained our people at IRDP in 1986, one particular statement that I was very fond of saying, I now recall that to a tribal in Koraput district, managing a buffalo is as complex a management as managing a steel plant by the Tata management. The same thing. For this Adivasi, a buffalo or a small poultry is as complex because he does not know what is the risk involved with it, associated, where to sell, he does not. Just as Tata may not know how to source the raw materials and where to sell this raw material, the final product. So what we need is technology, policy, capacity. These are the three things that if you want to promote industrialization based on agriculture raw materials. Now policy has to change. Government of India has begun to change the policies. Technology has to be generated. India is fairly good when it comes to technology at micro level, at small scale level, at the medium scale level. But it's not still very good when it comes to large scale, mega scale, in the domains of agro-processing. I'm going to talk about agro-processing. You may be very good in steel technology. I'm just talking about this. And I gave you the example of agar. We know how to produce agar, but we don't know how to make agarose. We don't know how to make cephalus. That technology is not known to us. So this is so in every segment. And it is very important that we move the farmer up the value chain. The simplest processing is that he harvests his crops. For example, he harvests jawar or a pulse like a tur. He's got a small, plant at his farm. He decorticates it. That is simplest one. He brings down his mangoes. He declots that mango, washes it, sizes them according to different size. Then he waxes them to make it look good. That is the primary processing. But even that has to be taught to him. But as he does these things, what does he gain? First he has put in his labor, therefore he has got some job. And that job can be called a job provided he has been able to sell that produce at a higher level. Right? What is a job? You are using your hands, or you may use your mind, but you are being paid for it. So if he simply washes and cleans, he still does not get the money for that. It is a useless job. It cannot be considered a job. But we are sure that if he can do that much, he is able to integrate better to the market, and therefore he gets more price on his mangoes than what he would have got otherwise. That is a job he has created for himself. But if 20 farmers come together and say that we pool our mangoes, then we need a sorting machine, a simple grader, for example. Then we have created a a village level industry. I'm just giving you simple examples. It's not that, this is the only thing that can happen. To tell you that if we can teach the farmers that you need to primarily process it and create jobs for yourself. So now 185 days of job may become 195 days of job. So we keep on adding like that. And if we can move him from primary processing to secondary processing, he is creating more jobs. While secondary processing is more complex. Secondary processing always involves physico-chemical transformation of the raw material. Simple mango typically is a physico-chemical transformation. It does not remain the natural mango that it was there. A tamarind paste, it has now made the tamarind to undergo transformation. So, a simple secondary processing can become more complex secondary processing. And as it becomes more complex, or it is organized at a different level, we need more of raw materials. I need to then aggregate the produce of different farmers and make it a volume so that my capital intensive, technology intensive industry is fed continuously with raw materials. Because one of the needs of an industry is certainty of availability of raw materials. Okay? So, now what we understand is that agriculture is capable of producing raw materials as we need in industries. That we can have industries of different grades, that it is possible for us to convert our farmers or even non-farmers in the villages, the youth in particular, through capacity building into entrepreneurs, into employees in an industry. Because even that shift from a farm employee to an industry employee calls for a different nature, different set of mind altogether. It's more formal in structure compared to a non-formal, informal structure. It's almost like a fish to the water in the case of a farmer. So it is now possible for us to therefore put in place all these systems and start generating more and more jobs and incomes related thereto. So a secondary agriculture means that we are now getting into the mechanical world from a purely biological world, and then adding jobs for the people by making them entrepreneurs and making them partners in an enterprise. And all the policy support that is needed is being provided to them. What is the policy support? First is, if we need to ensure that raw material is available to the industry, not just in that particular village, but outside the village, outside the district, outside the state, then I need to ensure that the raw material is moving seamlessly from Navalgund to Hubballi to Mumbai to Bangalore to Delhi. If our law says that no, you cannot move the material out of Dharwad district because our APMC law says so, then what is the point of setting up an industry in Belgaum, which is dependent on the raw material of Dharwad district? Or what is the point of setting up an industry in Pune, which is dependent on the raw material or the mangoes of Dharwad, because Dharwad is the best district to produce mangoes in our state, or the silk that is raised in Kolar district. So it means that there has to be an unrestricted, seamless movement of agriculture produce. That's the first requirement. And the second requirement for this to happen is that we have got a credit support, because in India, the major constraint is credit. Even today, the costliest credit, whether it's the farmers or not farmers, is in India. Our interest rates are still very high. It shows how inefficient we are in our banking system. So, a credit support is very much necessary. And of course, the third one is a technology. And the technology, whether it is a CSIR, whether it is a CSIR, Council of Scientific and Industrial Research, or the ICAR, or the Department of Biotechnology, Department of Science and Technology, all these people need to wear a new hat. And in this context, I must say that we must all now remember that all the wisdom does not lie in government sector alone. There's as much wisdom outside as in government. Conventionally, the role of government is to maintain law and order, to run general administration, to ensure that the systems are in place and let the business be done by people who can do it. Not that we cannot do it, but then government has a very different set. Government, being a public trustee of all that belongs to the people, has to be doubly careful to ensure that there is honesty in the system. And therefore we become slow by nature. Whereas somebody in the private sector is not bound by all these constraints. He does not have too many masters as we have. And therefore he can be much more agile in his movement. He can be more profit-centric than compared to a government's organization. That is besides the point. The point is that today it is possible for us to link agriculture as a new field of resources for generating new produce. Not just the first stage produce, but the second stage, third stage, fourth stage. That means we create a link where the produce at one stage becomes intermediate food for the next one and keeps on going. And that is very important, because as we do this thing, we are moving the farmer up the value chain. So before I close, the point that you need to remember is the efficiency of marketing, as they say, is defined as the share of the producer in the consumer's rupee. If I pay rupees 10 to buy a particular fruit, how much did the farmer get? Did the farmer get 1 rupee, 2 rupees, 3 rupees, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10? He may get 10 because he directly sold his produce to the consumer. That means he shares 100%. But he could not do that. He gave it to one intermediary. That intermediary gave him some X amount. He gave him 8 rupees, but he came and sold that at 10 rupees. The producer shares 8 rupees. So what we now need to do is see how farmers can come in direct contact with the consumers. Now, if he wants to come in direct contact with consumers, he can do it in their own village. He may do it in a neighboring village, but he cannot do it at a distance of 100 kilometers or 200, 1,000 kilometers. If he has to reach his tomatoes to Delhi from Rome, he has to take it through a reefer van. Or he has to then upload here at Hubballi airport or at the railway station. It calls for specialization. That means we need service providers. So, in that case, if we can make the farmers themselves to take on some of these responsibilities, that means they need to transport their commodities from the village to the taluka place or the APMC Hubballi. Do they have a vehicle? Yes, they have the vehicle. But can one farmer afford to buy a vehicle? No. Maybe 1,000 farmers together can't buy a vehicle. So that's the producers' organization. Can we help the farmers, 1,000 farmers to come together and tell them, I will give you credit, you buy one vehicle, transport vehicle. Now that producer organization is transporting itself directly and therefore it is able to capture high value. So the secret of helping a farmer to get more share in the consumer's rupee is to help him move up the chain through facilitation. That facilitation means vehicle, facilitation means storage, facilitation means road, other where does he transport? And more importantly, the facilitation means his ability to withstand for a few days. If I have got enough money for my next 1 month, I don't need to sell today, I can wait for 1 month. But farmer doesn't have that. That is called a distress sale. So how do you make him to get a saving, higher saving, so that he doesn't have to rush to sell, he can wait for some time. So there are many, many issues that will require. The last point that you need to remember is there's a difference between marketing and monetization. Marketing is just a sale transaction. A marketing may enable you to get a good price, yet you may not benefit. A farmer is interested, or any manufacturer, any producer, even of a car for example, provided he is able to sell his volumes. If I produce 100 cars, I should be able to sell at least 90 cars. If I produce 100 tons of sugarcane, I must be able to sell 100 tons of sugarcane. Sugar factory X may say, I buy 50 tons only, I will give you 4,000 rupees per ton. Give me 50 tons, but I won't buy the 50 tons. Whereas another sugar factory may say, I'll buy all your 100 tons and I'll give only 80 rupees. 3,000 rupees per ton. I would rather sell to that man who is ready to buy everything of mine, rather than sell half. So it means that monetization means the ability to sell all that I produce, that I can sell. That is a marketable surplus. All the marketable surpluses I must be able to sell and get a reasonable rate. And that's what the new policy is aiming at. Building agri-logistics so that you can move your commodities, you can store them, access a bank's credit through the negotiable warehouse receipt so that you don't have to resort to distress sale. So what it shows is that if we want to help the farmers to move to the secondary agriculture, we need an ecosystem approach. We need technology, we need infrastructure, we need agri-logistics, we need finances, we need capacity building, we need new science, new technology. So there is a whole basket of activities. Many times we have failed not because we have failed to implement, it is because we have not looked at a policy in a comprehensive manner. So I am not getting into the policy aspect. I just want to tell you that today we need to move to a secondary agriculture which is based on food and non-food processing, and that will set the trend for what is called a bioeconomy. A bioeconomy means I'm using not just the primary products, but I'm using the byproducts too. And a bioeconomy, as the name suggests, is based on biology, physiology, not just simply machine, not the fossil resources. And a bioeconomy takes us to the next step called the circular economy. A circular economy means it is using technologies, using processes, management principles, which are not end of term in nature. Not that I use once and throw it. That has been the culture, right? Use and throw. No. A circular economy talks of use, reuse, use, reuse. So that the wastage is minimal. And that is what is going to help us to create a sustainable world. And when that happens, we will be creating more and more jobs in a sustainable pattern. So friends, I think I will stop here, that we need secondary agriculture to help create more value, to create more jobs, more incomes, a more eco-friendly industrial society, a more eco-friendly modern habitation, a more eco-friendly civilization, and therefore a more sustainable human life on earth. This all can be put in only one sentence. that if we can take up this thing, we'll add 3 times the value to our agriculture produce. And that evidence shows, it's not just a statement I'm making. If we are able to process, we add 3 times the value to the agriculture produce. So today, if in India the total gross value added in agriculture is 1.3 million crores, that is the value of agriculture, 1.3 million crores. If you can add value, you just multiply it by 3, it becomes 3.9 million crores. Okay? So, if the farmer's income today is approximately 1 lakh rupees per year, that's much. Just imagine 1 lakh rupees per year. It will become 3 lakh per year if you can add value. Not that that is sufficient, but at least you are jumping from 1 to 3 lakh. So, it's a win-win-win-win situation for everybody. So, I think you as entrepreneurs, kindly think over whether you are talking about startups in the IT domain, startups in the, in the machinery sector, or in any service sector, because startup need not be only information technology. There is another unfortunate thing, like Xerox means photocopying, or photocopying means Xerox. Today startup has become IT, not necessarily. IT is a process. It can be end also, but it's mostly a process. So, when you want to get into that kind of a thing, and it is possible for us to look at agriculture. And last 1.5 years have shown that agriculture is a green field. It has created more jobs, created more wealth than industry and service sectors. When all of them, both of them grew at minus, agriculture grew at 3.4%. So, agriculture has that resilience, and given the continuous expectation of contingents, not just linked to this corona, but to climate change and the weather extremes, I think that agriculture would be creating better options for all of us. So, thank you very much. We can have Q&A as you wish. Thank you.
Can I ask you questions? Slide.
I have a question.
Yeah, please.
This agricultural land has been shrinking so across our country for a variety of reasons. Agricultural land has been shrinking across country for a variety of reasons. One is due to rapid urbanization, and the other is it is more lucrative for a farmer to sell his land for lakhs and lakhs than earning 1 lakh per acre. So this land is rapidly being sold for residential purposes. Residential layouts are coming up, and all the growth what is happening, industrial or non-industrial, it is mostly now concentrated around metros country. Whether it's Karnataka, it's happening around, most of the growth is concentrated in and around Bangalore and Mysore. And tier 2 towns have very little growth. So how do you think this issue can be addressed, this shrinkage of agricultural land? On the one hand, we have set up a target to double farmers' income by 2022 or whatever. On the other hand, this agricultural land has been shrinking continuously. So how do you think this issue should be addressed by us?
Anybody else has any questions similarly related to this? Yeah.
So how can we address the fragmentation of cultivation lands? Because that also falls in the same category as this.
Yeah.
Sir, similar line, the scrapping of 79A, the non-agriculture is buying agriculture land. I mean, non-agriculture is piling up a lot of agriculture land which is not being utilized actually. That's a innovation.
So anybody else on parts of land? Yeah.
Sir, in addition to fragmentation of the agriculture land is another thing, because the average land holding of the farmer is coming down drastically, and then farming activities are getting more complicated. So it is very unviable for somebody to cultivate half an acre or 1 acre, and at the same time there is something is happening at the ground level, at the village level. That is more like few non-owners of the agriculture land are cultivating the agriculture land, and whatever benefits from the government is coming, it is not reaching actual cultivator. So I am owner, I get all the subsidy or whatever I am intended to, or even the credit, basic credit, but I am not the cultivator. Somebody else is cultivating, and he has to obviously borrow at a very high cost, because he has nothing to offer as a security or whatever, 3-4% interest rate, money is not going to him. So, and on the other hand, if you positively see, the technology is also upgrading within agriculture. So, actually, CV sir has not come here. Once when I met him about 3-4 years back, so he was telling, going forward, agriculture will not be the same. So, the current day scenario is that agriculture is, if there are 4 kids in the house and the domestic is cultivating doing the agriculture, all the 3 intelligent people are moving out. So going forward, it will not be the thing, it might reverse. So, any comments on this?
Anybody else there? Related to land. Related to land. Yes.
Sir, I think I had to ask a few questions, but some of them were.
If you not first ask related to land only, then we'll take to the next set of questions. I just wanted that I can give a common answer. Related to land, you want to ask? Okay. So let us now answer this land. Yeah. Yeah, please.
Just relating to this land, just an observation, then we'll get into the answer. In Kerala, exactly the reverse is happening. Where? In Kerala, exactly the reverse is happening, where landowners are not cultivating.
Yes.
It's just lying fallow, because they are finding it unviable economically. So how does it fit into this dichotomy?
Okay, so let me attempt an answer to this. There are multiple issues related to land as I emerged here. See, first thing is that shrinking of land is inevitable. It has to happen, and it's not a bad sign. That's the first thing. From the economic, talking about macroeconomics, not from individual farmers. Why? India has got 329 million square kilometer of land. Okay? We are 7th largest nation, as you know. Of this, 46% of the geographical land is under cultivation. The global average is 31%. That means in India, more land is under agriculture than in many other countries. Generally, and the land use statistics, optimal land use statistics says, we should have 33 under forest, 33 under agriculture, 33 under other uses. That means habitation, common property resources, etc. In India, we have 46%, and in result, we have less ratio of land under forest than actually required. That's the first point. The second point is what? Our population is growing. We want people to live a proper life. today the situation is millions of people are without houses. There are millions of square kilometers without a road connectivity, rail connectivities, and all kinds of infrastructure. So logically we will have to spare land for people's homes, hearts, infrastructure, roads. Where did we have roads 20 years back? We are having roads and we have to. And only we'll see more and more area going away from agriculture to non-agriculture. That is inevitable. To give you data, between 2005-06 and 2011-12, 1 million hectare of agricultural land has been converted to non-agricultural land. And that pace will keep growing. Yes, it is negative for the big farmers, positive for the economy. What we need to do, we need to find alternate opportunities of jobs for these people. So when the shifting of people from agriculture to non-agriculture is inevitable, should happen. Our own, DFI report, we identified 7 sources of growth for the doubling farmers. The 6 sources are lying within the domain of agriculture. The 7th source is outside the agriculture's domain. And we said shifting of people from farm to non-farm sector. That means it is inevitable. We must. Why? Today, 48% of India's population is dependent on agriculture. Directly and indirectly. When I say directly, cultivating, indirectly, doing jobs linked to agriculture. There are 12 crore or 120 million farm households, 140 million landless agricultural laborers. So, if we create the next value of GVA in agriculture, today I told you it was 1.3 billion crore, for example, divided by 120 million, that is the per capita income. So my strategy to double income is to increase the numerator, to decrease the right. That is a simple arithmetic. I can only increase the numerator by adding more volume of produce, converting that volume to better wealth by giving better prices. And I can decrease the numerator or denominator only by shifting the people in agriculture to non-agriculture. Is it necessary? Once I argued that it is not necessary, but now I am saying it is necessary. I am not contradicting myself. I am only saying there is an optimality. Buddha said golden mean. Today, we have 120 million households working in agriculture. It looks like they are employed, but actually they are not employed. I told you they are employed for 185 days. So the people who are employed is, where one man is required, 2 guys are doing a job, 2 persons are doing a job. Sorry, I should not use the word guys. 2 people are doing a job. So that is called disguised unemployment or underemployment. Economists are very good at defining terms, right? Full employment, undisguised unemployment, underemployment. So a lot of people in agriculture today are underemployed. Or they look like they are being employed, but actually they are disguised unemployment. We therefore need to shift the people. So where do we shift? We need to set up new industries, whether it is a bioeconomy based industry or any other nature of industry. That requires land. So we will have to do that. However, it also means that we need to control our population. We are not talking, I am just telling you. How can you keep on having population ultimately? We need some kind of policy, right? But more important is, till we do that, we will have to find some jobs for these people or expand the job opportunities. And as I said, if we can adopt secondary agriculture, we are creating more jobs at the farm level, at the village level, or in the sectors linked to agriculture. We are very proud that we are producing today 1.3 billion tons of agricultural raw materials. Very huge. One of the highest in the world. This includes 305 million tons of food grains, 326 million tons of fruits and vegetables, 180 million tons of milk, and so many other things. But this volume itself is not going to say that it will convert into wealth for the people. point is that we need to make these people get jobs related to these volumes. Okay, so land conversion will happen. However, we will have to, capacitate these people and then see that how they can produce more and more. Like, can we make 305 million tons of food grains into 600 million tons? It is possible. But when I make 600 million tons, then the markets will dip. So therefore, I need to find other ways of using the agricultural produce. So all that thing we have talked about. Now, how do we, stop this fragmentation of land? Can we allow consolidation of land? Because of our laws, because our laws come from customs, and our custom is that all children have equal right to land, and therefore the land will keep dividing, it will keep fragmenting. When we make fragmentation, because the parents say that every child should get equal part in every quality of land. One is black cotton soil, one is gravelly soil. No, I should get here also, I should get here also. Unlike the homogeneity system in United Kingdom, where only the eldest child gets everything, others are told you fend for yourself. So inevitably they will have to learn skills and take up jobs and scale. And law cannot be away from custom. Right? We cannot say one fine day that only eldest son will get and others can go and fend for themselves. So what we are now saying is, can we go for producers organization? Right? Can we create producers organization? Because we say that modern technology needs scales of economy. It cannot operate at 1 acre or 2 acres of land because cost of transaction becomes very high. Purchase of inputs and purchase of sale of output. So the producers organization can help in bringing efficiency to the input management and output management. And this is the experience of many countries. Europe has done a tremendous progress in producers organization. Today in European Union, for every 1 million farm households, there are 254 producers organizations. And their land holdings are much higher than ours. And they were found that farmers have benefited immensely, consumers have benefited immensely. So the only way for us is to create producers organization. Second one is to enable consolidation of land. The consolidation of land will happen provided he gets a better job opportunity elsewhere. You must have seen that people who migrate to cities and are getting good jobs, they are selling their lands. So nothing wrong with that. They can sell their land. Today people are not selling their lands because they see a lot of value in that, lot of intrinsic emotional value attached to land and gold in our country. Once they know there are better job opportunities, that intrinsic emotional value will start getting decreased. So we need to help in consolidation of land. So related to this, once again our policies are very restrictive. The first restriction is what? We said that people above a certain income level cannot buy land. Yes, the one argument is that the rich will become richer, the people who make black money or money wealth creation through wrong means will go and buy the land. Yes, that is also possible. But then there will be always such issues, we'll have to check those kind of things. The consolidation at least can happen through legalizing land lease. In India, we don't have a land lease system which is legally allowed. Because in our revenue laws, there's something called as a default ownership. Okay, if I can prove that I've been cultivating a piece of land for 12 continuous years, you know better, then I can prove that I'm the owner. So you as a owner are not willing to give your land on lease, even though it is a small patch of land. So government of India built what is called a modern land lease and shared with all the state governments. But all state governments are not willing to adopt that. We need to start making all these assets mobile. There's no mobility. There's rigidity, there's stationarity. So if we can create through the modern land, through the land lease provision, but I can lease my land without a fear of losing the land, I think more people will give land on lease. Today, using the geospatial technology, it's possible for us to have georeferencing. I don't need a bund also. 5% of our land is lost on only bunds. Bunds are required also to conserve soil and water, that's a different matter. But we are not required. we are having unnecessary bunds, and 5% of the net cultivated area is lost only under bunds. If you can have a geo-referencing, Karnataka is a very good. I mean, see, one way I can tell you, Karnataka as far as technology is concerned, is very advanced compared to other states. So today they are having that kind of geo-referencing possible. So if we can bring in all those things, then I think we'll make land more mobile. So we allow land lease or land consolidation happens. Then we allow producers organization, then the people will get together, to purchase inputs more efficiently, to sell their output more efficiently. If you go to Nashik, there's one Sahyadri Producers Organization. I think kindly go and see. It has been promoted by one person called Vilas Sindhe. He did his MSc in agricultural engineering. His father owned 9 acres of dry land in that Vidarbha area. They were not able to grow anything other than jawar, getting very small quantities. So this boy, he took to promoting, mobilizing farmers with producers organization. Today, he's only mobilized farmers who grow grapes. And if you go and see the kind of agri-logistics and systems he's built, we really appreciate. I told him when I visited that you deserve permission. Okay, he's a young guy. And till last year, the highest exporter of grapes was, sorry, I forget the name of the company.
So Mahindra.
Mahindra. Today, this man has beaten Mahindra.
Yes.
So farmers have done that. So it is possible, I'm just saying, there are many such organizations that they are in Tamil Nadu. Our poultry farmers are the best example. No government support, but poultry has grown thanks to private intervention, just like IT sector. IT has grown in India with some support, of course, but mostly private intervention. So I think it is possible. So I think the best way is that this land shrinkage is inevitable. Some of these things are very controversial statements I'm making, and I'm trying to make a loud thinking. Okay, it is inevitable. Land consolidation should be allowed through greater mobility. The third, however, is we need to create safety nets for the farmers. And that safety net will come from creating better job opportunities through training, skills, capacity building, and simultaneously maybe a welfare basket for them. Take the related example of industry. Why MSc segment in India not grown? We expect that micro will grow to small to medium to mega. But you go to Hubballi Industrial Estate or Belgaum Industrial Estate, me and Maltesh have traveled many a time. You ask that gentleman, why are you not growing further? He says, no sir, we are happy here. Why? If I go to the next step, then my employment number will go to above 100, then I become accountable to this labor department, director of factories and boilers, Hazard fellows. Every day they'll come to me and harass me. So in 2003, when I was Secretary of Industries, we said, let's now liberalize these labor laws. I was fired left and right while my counterpart in the other department concerned. She told me that you are industry secretary, you are not a labor secretary. Why are you entering to my department? I mean, at that point it was okay. But we said there should be a social safety net. That means we should allow the industries to hire people when they need more and maybe remove them when they don't need, but then give them some kind of safety net. After the poor people, we need to have some 3 months or 6 months safety net for them. So if you can build that ecosystem, we cannot be adventurous, we cannot be Robin Hoods, that I'm just bringing these reforms like this. No, I need to keep in mind the poor people also in mind. Sorry I've taken a little more time to explain this thing, but I need to explain, to tell you that we need an ecosystem approach for everything. Because in India, there are poor people, we must take care of them. There are people not skilled, we must take care of them. They don't have access to credit, we must take care of them. Technically, they are not sound, we must take care of them. But simultaneously, we cannot forget the march of technology. Look at Bangladesh, much behind than us. But today, textile industry in Bangladesh has grown by leaps and bounds because they have reformed. Today, all the industries that are shifting from China, they are mostly going to Bangladesh and Vietnam. Very small percentage coming to us. So the great potential that we are not utilized. We have to utilize through this reform. I think that's what government is trying to do. Reform the labor laws, reform the banking sector. So the third generation reforms must happen in every sector.
Agriculture sector is the first enterprise I told you, which was not given by government. There was no government in that 10,000 years ago. It was man himself found this thing, but we restricted him so much, tied him down to everything, right? And then today there is nothing. So I think we need to keep liberalizing. Thank you.
So any more questions? You have last question. Then we can go to the next session.
Hello. So this is related to the water utilization which you were saying. Presently, India, we generally grow in the dry season, but the rainfed area we grow only one season. So with irrigation, we are able to have 2 seasons. The intensity of irrigation has become twice. Okay. And now you're talking of making intensity of irrigation 3 times, where the farmer is able to grow 3 crops in a year. Okay. But critical component is the water, where to my understanding as irrigation engineer, we have failed to utilize whatever the water was legally available, various states including Karnataka. Then how do you address the additional requirement of water when you talk of multiple intensity of irrigation for the same land? Only 2 crops of irrigation we are not able to manage. Now if you are talking of 3rd and 4th, where is the water going to come?
Yeah, see, water is very much required, but we should use the water properly, judiciously. That is called water use efficiency. We don't need the quantum of water we are actually using today. If we, for example, use micro irrigation in place of flood irrigation, the water use comes down by 50%. Productivity goes up by at least 30%. Okay, and now you combine micro irrigation, a mechanical device, with the emerging technology like a sensor, your efficiency will still go up. So it is possible. What we shall use. But at the technology level, why can't our scientists start breeding those crops which need less water? You know? Well, what that means we must measure the productivity of water. 1 unit of water usage is yielding how much of produce. So we have not thought of those things so far still. So we need to, that means apply new science, new technology. Well, physiologically, I don't think so we need that much. See, I can recall my, whatever I learned at agriculture college, where we were told that if we have a C4 plant, a C4 plant can yield much more, many times than what a C3 plant can yield. The maize, for example, is a C4 plant. It can yield even 40 tons. That means 400 quintals per hectare. Today, how much are we getting? 2.7 tons. Karnataka is a little higher at 3.2 tons. America is getting already 12 tons. Whereas a C3 plant, like a jawar or paddy, it can be converted into C4. So our yield levels will go up. That means the same use of water, we're getting more yields. My common sense tells me that science has got so much of potential that we should be now looking at these things. That means I need designer crops, designer produce. I put, this is what my end is. You know, in science there are different kinds of approaches, right? One is a normative approach. In normative approach, I say I want this, and how do I get this? So scientist has to then start working on this way. Okay, I want so much of water, so much of soil, so much of other resources, but I want so much. You now give me the answer. So now time has come in the 21st century to actually do that. Say fertilizer, we are using quintals and quintals of fertilizer. But if you deploy nanotechnology, we will require just a micro quantity. So now many people are working on nanotechnology. So I guess in times to come, we will be able to, there's no end to the world. There's no doomsday, frankly speaking. We can have hope, but we need a reset of our minds. As Gandhiji said, I can use, education is like a scissor. I can use it through the doctor to do an operation, or I can give it to a pickpocket to cut somebody's pocket. So science and technology is like that. Where do I use it? To produce the atom bomb or to give us a molecular friendly technology? It's possible. I mean, it's a challenge, no doubt. Not easy.
Nothing is easy, but it is a challenge. A challenge is an opportunity. An opportunity has a solution. I guess we need to do that.
Sir,
Very good.
Sir, you talked about food processing and you gave an example of Western countries. So we see many of the Western countries using food processing and coming up with a lot of consumer human-based products. Okay, but they also have something like health issues because of the additives that they add to make it more good for consumers. Okay, and attract consumers. And these add-on things for food processing, particularly meant for human consumption, are also causing other issues while doing so. But the traditional approach which we use in our Indian culture, like pickle, which is connoted, but it doesn't have any, as such, I am aware that it doesn't have side effects. So it's not just about food processing, but I think it is food processing which is more kind of healthy. It doesn't have side effects on the health aspects, because otherwise it creates a new vertical that farmers should have extra money to spare on the health issue also. So we are adding more requirements for consumers.
Yeah, I perfectly agree with you. I don't want to leave you with an impression that we should all start consuming processed food. We have to say no to all the junk food. We have to say yes to the fresh food. When I was talking of processing, I'm only saying, I'm still saying that we must consume fresh food only. Today, in fact, slowly Western society is moving towards the fresh food. But it does not mean that we don't need processing otherwise. We will need processing not to produce the processed food, but some element of processing becomes necessary to reach the long-range markets.
And also reduce the waste.
Reduce the wastage. Let us take, for example, the fruits. We had a survey in 2012, and what did we find? It is a very conservative survey. It is not a very scientific survey. It showed us that in 2012, rupees 93,000 crore worth of agricultural produce was lost in India because we were not processing it, or we were not reaching where it should reach. It was 6% in case of cereals, it was 25% in case of perishables like fruits, and in milk it becomes still higher, meat it becomes higher. So every produce, agriculturally produced, is a living organism. Even after we have harvested that, it is a living organism. It is not dying. But its lifespan varies. For example, a jawar can stay without compromise for 1 year. The pulse can stay maximum 6 to 8 months. Fruits cannot stay more than 3-4 days. Milk cannot stay for more than 4 hours. So, every living organism has got a certain lifespan even if it after it's harvested. So we need to therefore process it. It can be primary processing, it can be secondary processing, some amount inevitable. That is what is called time integration or space. Okay, what I produce in this Kharif season will not be fully consumed only in this season. It will be, for example, onion, best example. 60% of onion produced consumed in India is produced in Maharashtra, and something is produced in Karnataka, Telangana, and then in Madhya Pradesh. Now, the Maharashtra produced onion is something that is more or less consumed across the country. Since we have got only 2 restricted seasons for onion, but onion is something that Indians need every meal. So how do people eat onion in the season when it is not grown? It has to be stored. It has to be processed. So some things become inevitable. So we need to prioritize what to process, what not to process. So can we have more of food, not food processing than food processing? I talked about processing not just for food. I talked about therefore biomaterials, etc., etc. The Isn't it? You know, composites today are stronger than steel. We have a TIFAC unit in Bangalore under the aegis of Department of Science, Technology and Industry and RB Engineering College. Go and see, such beautiful composites are made. So a lot of things are possible. A lot of things are possible. So we are talking about those processes, those kind of processes. Okay. In fact, it is said that nutritionists say if you consume, the best consumption is what you consume that is grown within 100 kilometer radius, because it is suited to our nature, suited to our climate. We need not all the time say that I need olive oil. Our shega oil is much better than an olive oil. But then many things become fat because there is aggressive advertisement by some people. So you ask any high-fi person, he will tell you that you need olive oil. Huh?
Cholesterol level.
I know, but nothing wrong. The safflower, sunflower, these are all very good. Just to make a point that, we must focus on eating fresh and possibly what is grown within our own range, because that suits. Because every crop is responds to the climate. So if something is growing there, that means it is well suited to that area, that climate, that agroecology. And that is good for people who live in that area. There is a lot of synchronicity between our physiology and the life of the plants or the other animals. I think there is still a lot to learn, a lot to actually educate ourselves. Many of the things I told you may not be right also. As I said, some other things, yes, I've shared with you based on evidence, and a few things I've made loud thinking, because we all need to think. Thank you.
Sir, regarding the employment, you said the farmers are underemployed. They are employed only for the 185 days. But the basic problem in the rural areas, in the agriculture sector, is lack of labor.
Yeah.
How is this possible?
These are all ironical situations. When does a farmer need agri labor? Unlike a mechanically driven industrial process, agriculture is seasonally directed production system. As a farmer, I need labor when I want to sow, because I've got the rains, I need to sow in 1 or 2 days.
Even otherwise, sir?
Just listen to me. I need labor when I'm on a harvest. So there's a concentration of demand for labor. So what you find generally is, when I need labor, I'm not getting it. It's not that labor is not there. That means labor demand is not evenly spread out. Okay? So the irony is, there is surplus labor in our country. Simultaneously, that labor may not be available at the time I need. Okay? So these are some of the apparently contradictory situations. So we are saying, therefore, we need mechanization simultaneously, though we know that labor is there. So that the farmers who are seasonally directed, influenced, they must be able to harvest their crop. They must be able to, suppose there's a pesticide, there's an endemic, everybody wants to spray the pesticide, you may not get labor. So this is an ironical situation. But it's still a truth that their labor is surplus, and it is a truth that labor is not getting their jobs. But it is ironical that yes, farmers don't get when they want. So we need to, this is a matrix, isn't it? You will have to find a solution. We can't just work along the x-axis only. You have to see what is happening in the y-axis also. And find solutions. So when I keep on saying ecosystem approach, I'm only saying this. Put this matrix, this jigsaw puzzle in a proper manner. It's a jigsaw puzzle, literally, I'm telling you. Right?
Even people are not even keeping cattle. Farmers are just taking away cattle. Reason, ask the reason, no labor, sir.
The cattle population is dwindling away, but still India has got 15% of the world's cattle population. We've got 15% of the world's cattle population. Yes, we know cattle population is decreasing, and we still home to the highest number of cattle. And while on this subject, I just want to tell you that how we are not utilizing our resources. Italy has got only 2% of the total skin hide produced in the world. We produce 55%. But in the global market, leather market, Italy has 55% share, India has 2% share. Just look at that. So much of raw material, we are not using it. That Italy has nothing, is captured the global market. Producing leather products which are in sync with the demands, tastes and preferences. Somebody needs a vanity bag, somebody needs a high boots, somebody needs a fashionable wallet. So we should know how to change according to the changing situations, what kind of leather, how to use it, etc. So there are many contradictions. And we need not criticize ourselves. It only as they say in management that we see an opportunity in that. Like a management really went to Africa and they reported that nobody is wearing shoes, there's no point in setting a Bata shop there. But others, boy who had done a diploma and had accompanied him, he said, sir, I can sell so many shoes in Africa today. Where everybody is in need of shoes. So we'll have to find out, how we can capture the market. Ultimately, capturing the market is important, though, isn't it? We have to capture the market, not just be producers. So don't keep on calling farmers producers. We have to call them entrepreneurs. An entrepreneur is producing because he wants to sell. And you sell only when he can produce according to the demands. So we have to change not from farm to folk, but folk to farm. It has to be a demand-led agriculture, not a supply-led agriculture. He has to be a businessman, not a default professional or default agriculturist. No, that's not the approach. Agriculture is as technology-centric today. As you were saying that more and more technology is required, one of you were saying. So I think there is a scope to change, and I can see those changes happening. If you look at from the helicopter view, in the last few years, don't think that I'm just advocating for a particular government. No, I'm telling you very objectively that I can see some changes happening. At least we have started liberalizing things which is so much required. Imagine that when I went to Gulbarga in 2015 to tell those traders, you please buy your pulse, there's a lot of pulse this year. Those millers say, sir, we want to have a meeting with you in the evening. I sat with them. What they told me, you are telling us to buy. And your food inspector comes and tells me not to stock more than 50 quintals in my godown. And if I make it, he'll come and catch me. So should I hear you or should I listen to my food inspector? I better listen to the food inspector. Because you are in Delhi, you can't do anything about it. So what did the government say? Let us liberalize that. If you want more traders to come and buy, let that trader buy and store it. That is liberalization. So Essential Commodities Act, which was, which is an archaic law in 1955, it is required. At that time we didn't have food. There is a lot of black marketing, etc. But today the question is surplus. Who wants to store it and do a black marketing? There's no point. Black marketing is when I know I can get an opportunity to sell at a higher rate later on. But today there is no such situation, right? So I think we have to keep changing according to the changing times. So I think things are moving. There is much more aggressiveness. But in all that, if we want the farmers to become participants in this liberalized market, we must strengthen them. Technology, information, marketing opportunity, credit, all kinds of things are required. Okay? So I think we can stop it, right?
One last.
Last then.
One last.
Short.
Yeah. Sir, actually you mentioned about credit in a very brief manner. As you know, agriculture credit is an issue of politics in India. So the major waiver that happened about 10-15 years back, 10-12 years back, so that has in a way reduced the credit, it has reduced the credit available for the farmers in a very big manner. And sir, as you know, I am running a microfinance institution. So we have got a separate policy policy framework done over the last 15-20 years for microfinance. But I am not able to see any such policy from the top level for agri credit facilities for the required farmers.
I can only say that lots need to be done still, but lot has happened. See, the quantum of institutional credit today has gone up to 15 lakh crore.
Rather, it has gone to 16.5 lakh crore in this year. Okay. Out of this, 2/3 is available production loan, 1/3 is available for investment loan, and this is available at an incentive, subsidy of 2% basic rate plus 4% on prompt repayment. So in essence, the farmer gets at 4%, which is a very good progress. Second progress is the loan was available only to the crop farmer so far. From 2018, it has been made available to the fish farmer, to the dairy farmer. That means more people are covered today. The third one is, yes, as you were saying, our lessees are not getting, for example, you were saying,
Yes.
lessees are not getting. Yes, we need to redefine who is a farmer. So far, a farmer is defined as somebody who owns land. But our committee has said, define a farmer as somebody who owns a land or has taken land on lease. Somebody who owns a fish pond, because he's also a fisherman. Somebody who has got a pen of sheep or a goat or a cattle, he's also as much a farmer. We now need to broaden the definition of farmer, right? So the third thing that government is doing is to try what is called Kisan credit card, because we have only 6 crore Kisan credit cards, and many of them are defunct. So we are trying to revive those Kisan credit cards and through a drive give a KCC to every farmer. So when we do all these things do better. But more important is that we are trying to computerize all the primary agriculture cooperative societies. There are 94,000 packs, out of which 63,000 are active and others are all defunct. But even all the 63,000 are not computerized. Unless they are computerized, they cannot come on the core banking system. We will not be able to track and trace what is happening. So there are a lot of things to be done. But government has created a corpus fund to computerize all the packs in the country. Some states have started making progress. So, there are many problems. But, I guess things are happening. And we're aware that only the level of indebtedness is 46% in our country. And the amount of outstanding loan is very high. But yet I can tell you states like Karnataka, South India as a whole are much better. Of the total loan available in the country, the majority share is taken by South India. It's North India and all poor fellows are not able to access because there are neither banks, the banks are not viable. So South India is much better. If you are unhappy in South India, then imagine what will happen in other things. Okay, thank you. What about
I think this is more stimulating. That's more contemporary. That's just a perfectly thing. So it moves in the right direction.
You decided policies are there. It's very important. The transformation of government policies is also very important to take time. We have a very short if we can identify that can take off immediately, I'm sure many of our candidates answers and you can tell us.
I think first we will request from speak. If we speak, then we will talk.
Actually, I'll just conclude this.
Lead on to that. And that the follow-on part of the program can be compressed. More time can be given to what Ashok can do to stimulate the intellect audience.
3 minutes, 2 minutes. Right, friends, we had a wonderful interaction. Of course, transformation doesn't come just because of interaction. We need to get it applied somewhere, then only transformation happens. The essence that I could take in my own way, I'm not an agriculturalist, okay, but I'm part of the agriculture. So what essence I can take is, I remember a story of South Africa. Right, a farmer who understood that there is diamond in South Africa. Okay, so what he did is, he sold his best land and started in search of lands where diamonds are there. So he went throughout South Africa, I mean the African countries, throughout African countries. Finally he got so frustrated, one day he drowned in the water and committed suicide. Later on it was found that the diamonds were in his own form which he had sold. Right, so there is business where you are. So you need to explore it. That is what Sir was telling. Second point, what I could gather is, Mother Earth gives everything in abundance and free of cost. Only it is for the human effort that we pay. Otherwise, Mother Earth gives everything. I mean, you take petrol, petrol is free, totally free. But what we pay for is for the human efforts, that we bring it out, then give it to the customers. So, since it is free and in abundance, we should know how to utilize it. Today in India, as Sir says, it is not being completely, that resource that we have is not completely utilized. Okay. And third, why this is happening is, there are three kinds of people on this earth. Okay, one is a beggar, other is a poor person, and third is a rich man. Not the definition that we are looking for, right, generally. Who is a beggar? Beggar is one who expects money without giving any service. He expects money without giving any service. Poor man is one who gives less service but expects more money. And the rich man is one who gives service more than what he expects. There is an acute shortage of rich people. I am not talking of money-oriented rich people. I am talking of rich mindset people. Sir's essence was, a rich mindset is missing. Right? Today, if you go to universities or colleges, wherever I work, there are a lot of poor people. In fact, there are beggars. They may be drawing a salary of 2 lakh rupees, 3 lakh rupees, but they don't give service. Right? So the richness is in the mindset, and unless we become rich in our mindset, things cannot be used, resources cannot be utilized, and the good cannot be done. Okay, so this is the essence of it. A lot of statistics, a lot of good things, maybe a lot of entrepreneurs who have come from different parts. You are all ignited, definitely good things will happen. Okay, now coming to the next session. Sir, please to come. Sir, Okay, so as I said in my first introductory talk, like I said, the new economy is membership economy. Okay, every company, everybody is looking for membership now. They don't want to sell something to some customer and forget him. They want to be part of him. Like you take Netflix, Amazon, whatever it is. You take any company today, they are all doing that. So here, that thought that we have, it has come into picture in AJEETS Association also. We have been scattered for a long time, and now it is institutionalization of AJEETS Association. So in that regard, I request all our seniors to throw some light. Maybe Sir can start with that, or Shigao Sir can initiate it, then we can take it forward.
At the outset, I must say that just being amidst the AJEETS is something, a different experience. There's a sense of bonding just is a given. Ashok already mentioned about it in his introductory talk. And every time I interact with the AJEETS fraternity, it reinforces the values that I imbibe. And there are only two institutions that I believe create the values in every human being. One, to begin with, the family. And two, the very malleable stage of our growth, which is in the teens. And that's where we spent a large portion of that period in the school. And Ajit, that badge of honor that we wear with pride, in my service experience and beyond, is a different being. And every time I interact with a body like this, and I'm glad that Nemi took up this call to use this opportunity with Ashok's presence to bring the body together, to reactivate this. And I know that he was hesitant to name this man behind the scene. And let me tell you, it is the bulkiest of all, Maltesh. And but again, it is reflective of the ethos of the Ajit, that the joy of giving is when the beneficiary is not aware of who the beneficent is. And that is common to all Ajits. And that's what makes Ajit a special fraternity. So I'll leave it at that and then go on to, I actually want to compress this because what I am going to say has already been addressed by Ashok, and again unique of his batch of 75. I think they stand out in the Ajits. And it is just the most appropriate thing that they have taken the call. And we couldn't have found a more capable Ajit to set about institutionalizing the AAA. So virtually, he has done everything, including communicating, reaching out to people, seeking inputs. Listening is a very important facet of leadership. He has done all that. So I really have no ground to cover, and I have in many ways I want to actually compress it so that we have more time on hand for continuing the deliberation that was cut short. So perhaps that has got more weightage. And the institutionalizing part of it is, I think, the essence of the whole endeavor of Ashok. And therefore, we need not go beyond that because institution is above individual or before self. All I want to flag is that this AAA had very humble origins. So therefore, before we set lofty aims, we must always be conscious of the fact that our origins were very humble. And therefore, I actually would like to second this aspect that you highlighted, Mahesh, sacrifice. It is often used in or out of context. And like in war, when Patton said, it's not about giving your life on the battlefield. That Indian template has to be erased. It's about making somebody else give his life for what he values. So likewise, sacrifice also must be seen in that context. And you very nicely put it across, Mahesh. And that's why you are a trainer. So that part of it is again what I would like to emphasize. That because of these humble beginnings, when we set out on lofty aims, we need to step back and caution ourselves that are these aims in keeping with our beginnings. It is desirable, provided the AAA has reached a certain critical mass. At this juncture, I don't believe that it has reached critical mass. And therefore, when we and in this context, I think the beginning of the AAA in the institutionalized form, I think also reflects this when Ashok talks about Ajit Knowledge Forum. That's a wonderful beginning and a reminder to all of us here that before you set about very lofty objectives and aims, please keep it simple. Let us first address the knowledge part of it. and then we can graduate. And therefore, the only thing I want to flag here is that the AJEET Forum should be a forum for empowerment, not a forum for charity. Because the fact that I have this badge of AJEET itself should be a badge of honor. And therefore, should AJEETs themselves be seeking charities? And likewise, today there are a lot of deliberations about students needing certain support and so on. Now it was the same school which gave us all this. And while we were students, none of us ever differentiated between classmates, friends on grounds of denomination, whether financial or other societal denominations. So which means that the school managed it so adroitly, without anyone of us ever feeling that we were dispossessed or underprivileged. So I'm sure the same template can be carried forward. And therefore it's very important for the institutional part of AAA to define criteria. Otherwise, it will fall into the whimsical domain. So we should not fall into this trap, and I am very confident that the ethos that we have imbibed as AJEETs will ensure that AAA will not fall into this trap. So let us first empower this AJEET Knowledge Forum for it to reach a critical mass. Once it has reached a critical mass, even then, we must anchor ourselves to there being no free lunches. So every time the AAA goes about extending empowerment, a hand of empowerment, it must be with a certain understanding, tacit or otherwise, that this need not be a payback, but the individual in turn must extend this to multiples. So putting it more simply, let us say I am the beneficiary of a certain hand-holding by the AAA. The best thing I can do to AAA as an institution is that I do this hand-holding for 3 more people and not expect AAA to do it. So thereby AAA would have actually enhanced its capacities 3-fold. So each beneficiary of AAA, for which we have to draw criteria, must in turn make it incumbent on himself or herself. Now it's soon we are going to have girls also in amongst the AJEETS Forum, which is a very positive step. Fine. That they keep adding value. And that's the only way AJEET, the AAA, will grow by leaps and bounds. So I really don't want to take any more time. The only thing I want to add, and he has already highlighted, Ashok, that the AAA Forum, the group, or in the digital profile, should desist from using the AAA Forum for ideological or other denominational communication. Keep it to yourself. My belief is my belief. I cannot use a AAA Forum to be a preacher or to be a cynic in the society. Either which way, there is a flaw. So I would like the AJEET Forum to adhere to these some ground rules. Ashok has already highlighted this. So let us not use the AAA Forum for highlighting our point of view, or even as an institutional being. Institutions are not meant to put, there has to be a differentiation between the institution and the persona. So you are the leader in the institution. We have to have a clear understanding of the persona and his capacity in the institution. And therefore, we must desist from positioning the persona on a pedestal. This is very rampant in our society. And I am very confident that AJEET Forum will give no room for this. So that's the only thing I want to add, so that we can have more time for the other part of what the leftover part of the dialogue that we had with Ashok. Because as a practicing farmer, I do have a few issues. And before I end, I just wanted to add a few things to points that you raised. But there are many dichotomies, enigmas. You can use any number of adjectives to describe these things in the farm. And that is what makes it so difficult. Labor issues. So in everything, as Ashok very rightly brought out, that we must see opportunities in it. And therefore, like I just give you an empirical piece of information that while this is happening in my farm, I'm using a combined harvester for the first time for harvesting green gram, Yesru. And again, this is how it is. Only a week, 10 days back, I was traveling to Andheri again in connection with the farm implements and so on. I saw on the way maybe 24 harvesters harvesting green gram. So straight away it struck me that the farmers, their learning curve is pretty steep. Why shouldn't we? I use the same. So I immediately raised contacts and we got it, and it is happening. Yesterday he came, I was there on the farm, but because of rain. But today it is continuing. But because it is being done by machines, I have the liberty of getting myself out of it and leaving it to the team that I have built out there. So it's an opportunity as well. And it is also linked to the earning capacities. So that you are lowering the denominator. So therefore, obviously, the earning capacity of the numerator will increase. So these dichotomies will always be there, but one must see the opportunities in it. And other thing leading on to this dichotomy is that the kind of expertise that was there, which today the machine does dispassionately. It is not emotional. You take care of the machine, it delivers for whatever it is designed. Whereas human beings don't. They have problems at home, they have this, etc. It comes on to the place of work. And then all of you, a large number of your entrepreneurs, you know the consequences of it. So these things will be there. And today, even if I want to, I had this experience where some years back, I didn't get the combined harvester for harvesting maize. So I had to perforce go back to the basics. I employed labor. So the job which was done by the combined harvester overnight, morning to evening, it took me 10 days and 3 times the cost. So then what is it that I as a farmer would want to? So the template that I want is use of machines. They are more efficient. So therefore, the aspirations level also in the society, labor also has aspiration levels. So they would want to have better pay, better remuneration for the service that they are rendering. But again, it must be linked to work ethics. So these are few things that the society has to work on. So these, enigmas will always remain in the farm sector. So shall we then progress on to continue with this thing after, with the leftover portion of the dialogue with Ashok, after SG has a few things to...
I'm only concluding it.
Dear friend, before A.J. Patil sir speaks, I have few things to share. It was under his president, A.J. Patil sir, presidentship in Belgaum in February. We conducted the first meeting. It was just to interact. I requested, sir, Barbak sir, hey, so he took his car, Patel sir both came. It was under their presidentship, an interaction was done. And when A.J. Patil sir, he spoke so many things, 2 sentences for me and for Ashok sir. Believe me, ಅವರು ಎರಡೇ ಮಾತು ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು. ಈಗ ತ್ರಿಬಲ್ ಎ ಬೇಕಾಗಿರೋದು ಇಬ್ಬರೇ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿಗಳು, ಒಂದು ಅಂಬೇಡ್ಕರ್, ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಸರ್ದಾರ್ ಪಟೇಲ್. ಅಂಬೇಡ್ಕರ್ ಏನು ಕಾನ್ಸ್ಟಿಟ್ಯೂಷನ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರಲ್ಲ ಹಾಗೆ ನಮ್ಮ ತ್ರಿಬಲ್ಲೆಗೆ ಒಂದು ರೀತಿ ಕಾನೂನು ಸಿಸ್ಟಮು ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಒಬ್ಬರು ಬೇಕು. ಹಾಗೆ ಇಂಡಿಯನ್ ಕೂಡಿಸಿದ ಸರ್ದಾರ್ ಪಟೇಲ್ ಬೇಕಲ್ಲ, ಹಾಗೆ ಇಬ್ಬರು ಬೇಕು. ಇವರಿಬ್ಬರಿದ್ದರೆ ಸಾಕು, ನಮ್ಮ ತ್ರಿಬಲ್ಲೆ ಎಲ್ಲಿಂದ ಎಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ಹೋಗ್ತೈತಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು. ಅವಾಗ ಅಶೋಕ್ ಸರ್ ಹೇಳಿದರು, ಇವೆರಡೇ ಮಾಲ್ತೇಶ್ ನಾನು ಅಂಬೇಡ್ಕರ್ ಆಗ್ತೀನಿ. ಈಗ ಸರ್ದಾರ್ ಪಟೇಲನ್ನು ಹುಡುಕ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ. ಈಗ ಯಾರು ನಿಮ್ಮಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾರು ಸರ್ದಾರ್ ಪಟೇಲ್ ಆಗಿದ್ರು ನಮ್ದೇನು ತೊಂದರೆ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ದಯವಿಟ್ಟು ಫಸ್ಟಲ್ಲೇ ಇಲ್ಲಿವರೆಗೂ ಎಷ್ಟು ಜನ ಓದಿದಿರೋ ಇಲ್ಲ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ, ಈ ಅಶೋಕ್ ಸರ್ ಒಂದು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಸೆಂಟಿಮೆಂಟಲ್. ಆ ಪ್ರೊಸೀಡಿಂಗ್ಸಲ್ಲಿ ಅವಾಗ ಹಾಕಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ನೀವು ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದು, ನಾಳೆ ಏನಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಯಾರಾದ್ರೂ ಒಬ್ರು ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದು, ಮೆಂಚ್ ಹೇಳ್ತಾನೆ, ಜೀವು ಅಶೋಕ್ ಮುಂದೆ ಚೇರ್ಮನ್ ಆಗೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಇವೆಲ್ಲ ಮಾಡಾಕತ್ತಾನೆ ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಬೋದು. ಅವಾಗೇನೆ ಪ್ರೊಸೀಡಿಂಗ್ಸಲ್ಲಿ ಅಗೇನ್ ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ರೀಡ್ ದ್ಯಾಟ್ ಪ್ರೊಸೀಡಿಂಗ್ಸ್. ಎಸ್ HG ಪಾಟೀಲ್ ಸರ್ ಜೀವನ ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಸಾಹೇಬ್ ಯಾಕೆ ಹಿಂಗೆ ಸರ್ ಹಿಂಗೆಲ್ಲ ಹಾಕಾಕತ್ತಾರ ಅಂತ ಅವ್ರು ಸೈನ್ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಮುಂಚೆ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು. ಬಿಲೀವ್ ಇನ್ ಹಿಯರಾರ್ಕಿ ದೊಡ್ಡವ್ರು ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ಸೈನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ, ನಾವು ಚಿಕ್ಕವ್ರದ್ದು ಇನ್ಷಿಯಲ್ ಹಾಕಿ ಆಮೇಲೆ ಹಾಕಿ ಬರ್ತಾರೆ. ಬಟ್ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ತ್ರಿಬಲ್ಲೆ ಆ ಪ್ರೊಸೀಡಿಂಗ್ಸಲ್ಲಿ ದಳವಾಯಿ ಸಾಹೇಬ್ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಸಿಗ್ನೇಚರ್ ಹಾಕಿ, ಮಾಲ್ತೇಶ್ ಟೇಕ್ ಸಿಗ್ನೇಚರ್ ಆಫ್ HG ಪಾಟೀಲ್, ಎನಿ ಕರೆಕ್ಷನ್ ರಿಕ್ವೈರ್ಡ್ ಯು ಟೆಲ್ ಇಟ್ ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಡೂ ಇಟ್ ಅಂತ. HG ಪಾಟೀಲ್ ಸಹಿ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕಿದ್ವಿ, ಸಾಹೇಬ್ ಹಾಕಿ ಐ ಡೋಂಟ್ ವಾಂಟ್ ಎನಿ ಪವರ್ ಇನ್ ದ್ಯಾಟ್ ಅಂತ ಲೈನ್ ಹಾಕಿದಾನ. ಜೀವನ ತಗ್ಸು ಮತ್ತು ಸರಿ ನೋ ರಿಕ್ವೆಸ್ಟ್ HG ಪಾಟೀಲ್, I will not delete that. I am doing this only as my passion for AJEETS, so that we can be a big role model alumni association, one of the top 25 in the world. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ, ಜನರಿಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿದೆ. ಸೊ ಈ ಅಜೆಂಡಾದಲ್ಲಿ ನಾನು ಟ್ರೆಸ್ ಪಾಸ್ ಮಾಡಿ, ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಆಫ್ HG ಪಾಟೀಲ್ ಸರ್, ಅಂಬೇಡ್ಕರ್, ಸರ್ದಾರ್ ಪಟೇಲ್ ಅವರು ಅವಾಗ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರಿಂದ ಐಡಿಯಾಗಳು ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಆಗ ಹೌ ತ್ರಿಬಲ್ಲೆ ಶುಡ್ ಡು, ವಾಟ್ ವಿ ಶುಡ್ ಡು, ಅವಾಗಿಂದ ಆಗಿದೆ. ಈಗ ರಿಕ್ವೆಸ್ಟ್ HG ಪಾಟೀಲ್ ಸಾಹೇಬ್ ಬೆಳಗಾಮಲ್ಲೇ ಹುಳ ಬಿಡಿಸಿ ಏನೇನೋ ಮಾಡಿದರು, ಈಗ ಹುಬ್ಳಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಏನು ಹುಳ ಬಿಡ್ತಾರೋ ಅದು ನಿಮಗೆ ಬಿಡಿ ಸರ್. ಐ ರಿಕ್ವೆಸ್ಟ್ HG ಪಾಟೀಲ್ ಸರ್ ಟು ಪ್ಲೀಸ್ ಅಡ್ರೆಸ್ ಅಸ್, ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಬಿಲೀವ್ ಮೀ, ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ ಅಪ್ರೈಟ್ ಆಫೀಸರ್, ಐ ವರ್ಕ್ ವಿತ್ ಹಿಮ್, absolute above board. And you prove also Ashok sir, HG Patil sir. And believe me, HG Patil sir has bullied Ashok sir. Adre, the respect Ashok sir has for HG Patil sir is extraordinary. I am a witness to that. And believe me, we should have hierarchical friendship and relation like that. Thank you.
You are casting aspersions at the others.
He know all are one only.
Yes, that's right.
AJEETS only. No denominations at this.
ಕೂಡ ಇಲ್ರಿ, 34 ವರ್ಷ ಸರ್ವಿಸ್ನಾಗ ನಿಂತ ಮಾತಾಡಿ. Good evening to all AJEETS. Today it was a pleasant evening hearing the most brilliant, I can say, the talk on agriculture so far in my 34 years of service. Though I headed the agriculture department, the speech by Dr. Ashok Dalwai sir, it was really an excellent. And coming to the core issue is AAA organization. Arvind Singh has made some brilliant observations. I agree to all his opinion. Dr. Maltesh has given me overwhelming praise for me, which I don't deserve. In the first meeting, it was very casual. Though I am a science student,
I failed twice in IAS and somehow clicked the KS by reading Indian history. Second, that one should read British Rule in India by Shashi Tharoor. It is so critical. The views of Dr. Ashok Dalwai sir matches Shashi Tharoor's level of thinking. That is what we have learned from study school. Everyone reads, but analytical and presentation and future guidance, that is most is required. That capacity and caliber Ashok has got. So I told him, if you want to develop AAA, 2 persons were required. One is to write the constitution, another is like Vallabhbhai Patel who can implement, who is the Iron Man. So you have to decide. Then we go ahead with the flow. We are all the participants sitting in the gallery and clapping. But both have to play the cricket. Who has to bowl, who has to bat, it is left to them. My friends, out of our past experience, the greatest opportunity our parents have given is to appear for Seni School. In 1963, there was an advertisement, so we just blankly knew nothing. Sangeet Kannada paper that banditri Seni School selection irtati in a casual way, we appeared. Appear army selection Bijapur interview kardru, over H.T. Sasnoor and a very famous man, literate. Vijay Sasnoor's father, B.T. Sasnoor, Vijay Sasnoor's father, H.T. Sasnoor was a principal. He took us an interview. Interview ನಿಮಗೆ ಏನಾಗಬೇಕಪ್ಪ ಅಂತ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ನಾವು ವಿ ಹ್ಯಾಡ್ ನಥಿಂಗ್. ಸುಮ್ಮನೆ ಕೂತೆ ನಾನು. ದೇವ್ರ 3 ವರ ಕೊಟ್ರೆ ಏನು ಕೇಳ್ತೀಯಪ್ಪ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ, ಸರ್ ನೀವು ಏನು ವಿಚಾರ ಮಾಡಿರಿ ಅದನ್ನು ನನಗೆ ಹೇಳ್ರಿ, ನಾನು ಅದನ್ನು ಹೇಳ್ತೀನಿ ಅಂದೆ. ನೀನು ನಾನು ಇಂಟರ್ವ್ಯೂ ತೊಗೊಳಕ್ಕೆ ಬಂದಿಯೋ ಹಾಗೆ ಕ್ಯಾಶುವಲಿ ಸೈನಿಕ್ ಸ್ಕೂಲ್ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಏನು ಗುರುತದ, ಏನೂ ಗುರುತಿಲ್ಲ. ದೆನ್ ಸಮ್ ಆಲ್ ಆರ್ ಪಾಸ್ಟ್. There were 50 students, then somehow our life started. The most fundamental observation I observed in Seni School's life is bondage. We had nothing, we were small kids. 5th to 8th, we were living in that small house with one mug of water. Brush ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋಕ್ಕೂ ಬರ್ತಿದ್ದಿಲ್ಲ, ಅದು ಏನು ಸೀನಿಯರ್ ಹೇಳ್ತಿದ್ರು. Gopinath was my squadron leader. Then I became his squadron leader. ಅವನು ಹೊಡಿತಿದ್ದ, ನಾನು ಇವರು ಹೊಡಿಲಿಲ್ಲ actually. I was very polite with him because he was a brilliant guy. He was good in academics, cross country ಓಡ್ತಿದ್ದ. I used to bring points. ಕ್ರಾಸ್ ಕಂಟ್ರಿ ಒಳಗೆ ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ಬರ್ತಿದ್ದೆ, ಮತ್ತು ಸರ್ ಬೈತಿದ್ರು. ಅವಾಗ ಸ್ಲಿಪ್ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ ಇತ್ತು, ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಗುರ್ತೈತಲ್ರಿ, ಓಡಿಸ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ ಯಾವ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಬರ್ತಾ 100 ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ವಿತ್ ದ ರಿವರ್ಸ್ ವೇಸ್ ಟು ಗೋ. We had a very good time. That time the basic quality we learned, we did not know who is who and what religion you belong, what caste you belong, what is your background. Only the bondage. Even that bondage you will not have with your brother and sister. That much I can tell. Initial foundation what we got in science school, that has brought you up to this level. You must be very fortunate that you are blessed to be studied in Science School Bijapur, and you owe a lot of to that. Second, this same AAA, under that foundation we should develop now. How we are in the school, now it is 1963, that is started. But same that now we are growing like a banyan tree. What is the property of the banyan tree? Anybody can tell? The greatest property of the banyan tree, branches out to the roots. All trees won't branch. That is the greatest criteria. So the Seni School is like a roots. We are like a banyan tree, we go from the roots and develop. Other trees will not give the seeds, but this Seni School gives us the roots to develop. So you as a root, think of going for as a banyan tree, and we have to chapter-wise thinking and totally consolidation of AAA is most important. And basically, it should be institutionalized. As rightly put it is, no one is above the institution. So we have an obligation, we have a duty We have a moral rights and everyone else has a duty for it. Do not expect anything triple from AAA. What you can contribute, like John F. Kennedy said, what you can contribute. Do not expect that the institution will handhold you. He has rightly said, we should handhold, but not in the sense of charity. But if you deserving students are there, if they are really economically is there, we'll go out, stretch it out. There is nothing wrong. And it is a part of our religion that we should share our profit. Whether even in Hinduism is there, Muslims is there, that we have to share our profits. That is our Hindu culture. So we cannot overrule that. But my friends, if you can handhold, as Arvind has rightly pointed out, it should not be a charity and they should not depend on us. We should think what we can individually contribute. If all we can contribute to the AAA in any sense, that holds our strength. Basically, I have nothing more to say. Ashok sir and Jivandav sir and all have taken very right steps in developing it. And I'm 67 years old. That reading from the mobile, it takes a lot of time. I get it into hard copy, study, and then say, okay, do it. So, but you are youngsters, you have got that exposure to technology, but only thinking you should do. See, it is AAA is nothing but the Renaissance. You have heard about the Renaissance? Renaissance means rebirth. Rebirth of our chapter-wise groupings that we should stop now. We should hold as a one family, one unit, like GST to all India, AAA to all in all Sunday school AJEETS. That should be your motto. I am one. What may come? Unless we have that feeling, our AAA will not go a step. And we should branch out, like a banyan tree, how it goes to the root. So we have to go to the roots and develop into a newer vistas and give what is the best we can do. And yes, Arvind sir also said we have to do something to the society. So we have to encourage youngsters to come up and do better than us. If I can develop Ashok, he can develop 100%. That should be that. That spark is required. And triggering, as he has rightly said, he uses the word triggering in his training class. That triggering is a mandatory. Who you are and what you will be. Unless you question yourself, he always says, when others can do it, why not I? In any training classes, he says, he can, a junior can do it, why not I? Do that. Your capability, you have got that caliber. Entering into a Sunday school is not everyone's luck. You have got that material capacity stuff in you. So develop that. Unless you develop individually, the AAA will not grow. So my humble request is, focus at least some time to AAA growth and go through all the regulations and whatever the best can be done, you can do it. We are all our seniors here to just give we are like stars. Only we will find the directions. But whatever little best is there, we will definitely do. But entirely the dependence on the youngsters who are coming up and who are going to take up the entrepreneurship. That entrepreneurship is very tough. Especially in the present days, lot of policies are coming, but implementation is really tough. Go ahead. Unless you go ahead and fall and never learn. Failure is the pillars of success. Everywhere pillars are there. We have to handholding this with all our seniors. Do your best and let the AAA be one family and all has to stand as a Ajite Avite. Thank you very much.
Before Ashok sir talks, if anybody has got some.
No, we have
idea.
that we also.
Yeah.
Inputs from.
ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಸರ್ ಬಿಫೋರ್ ಇಟ್ ಟಾಕ್ ಯಾರಾದರೂ ಒಂದೆರಡು ಮಾತಾಡೋಂಗಿದ್ರೆ ಬಂದು ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಶೇರ್ ಯುವರ್ ಥಾಟ್ಸ್.
Request our seniors.
Thank you, everybody.
I just wanted to come up and thank everybody for accommodating me. I'm from a Belgaum chapter. So it doesn't matter. Even then, that bondage which S.G. Patil said, it is the bondage that matters. It doesn't matter in which chapter you are. So they said, most welcome, attend, and also this gives an opportunity to meet Dr. Ashok Dalwai. And our bondage is still more because I am also from Gokak and he too is from Gokak.
More important is your father's rate for the science school.
Respected Dr. Ashok Dalwai, Dr. Sidlinga, how are you, sir? Commodore Arvind Shigam, my classmate. I still remember the day we joined at Vijay College. 2 Tongas were going, that time no auto rickshaw was there. And again we joined together in NDA and we were always together. And I salute him because he was first. That's why we say na Jai Jawan. After that career is over, he became Jai Kisan. So he has achieved both the aims. And he is doing very well in agriculture. I visited his fields. He's got fields around 35 acres. Initially I visited, it was all barren. And recently I went with my son-in-law just to show him how he is doing. He was also surprised. It is so green and so nice. He gave example of green horse gram. It has come up very nicely. Initially he was fed up with labor. They don't work. They only expect money. Then he suddenly, in spite of the objections from the village panchayat and all, he brought machines, mechanized.
You scratch your back, I scratch your back. Come to the cut.
Okay. Today I just wanted to thank you. And last time also, Mr. Jivan was there in Belgaum. In February there was a meeting. And similar meeting was held here today. So I just wanted to thank all of you for having given me this opportunity to attend this meeting. I have no other point to say. I just wanted to convey my thanks. Thank you, sir.
No longer is this Belgaum chapter and Dharwad chapter, it is one. Triple A. Full stop.
Yeah, I didn't attend the whole this thing. So, pardon me if I mentioned all these chapters. Like they brought out, it's just only one chapter, and that is AAA Association. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
You know, Mantesh, from there only, they can just all tell their wants.
Yeah.
What they want for AAA, make it institutionalized. They can tell it better.
Aspirations.
What you expect from AAA other way? At least that we will deliberate.
Mine can be circulated.
One nimsham over matak, then you should start.
Institutionally, you people have to take on the baton from
Yes.
There have been excellent initiatives like AJEET Knowledge Forum, AJEET Entrepreneurship Forum, and in fact there are a lot of new groups that are being created, new initiatives coming up. Now we are also talking about AJEET Matrimonial Forum and now Job Forum. There are a lot of things that I think, and especially if you actually look at the people outside the AJEET community, they are so envious, that the kind of bonding that we have and the kind of initiatives that we are trying. This is really bringing, we are in a big limelight actually. So that's really great. I think we have also discussed about in Knowledge Forum, what kind of programs we need to have, because AJEETs are at different age groups. Some of them are just coming out of the school, some of them are graduating, then somebody is getting married and trying to get into job. A lot of different levels, and each of them have got different needs. So each of these are being met, and then the discussion that we are having. I think this is an excellent initiative. I don't have any suggestions at the moment, but this is a really appreciable initiative.
Yeah, others also can just say whatever you feel. What do you mean by institutionalization? And what do you want? What is your aspiration?
What is your expectation from people? In what way you can help?
Just for your growth, to tickle your imaginations, I would want to invoke Admiral Chester Nimitz, who said that silence is the worst form of dissent. So please speak up.
Thank you, sir. As you have been saying, so when we see it as an institutionalization, what I see here is that it creates an opportunity and win-win situation for all. For example, say somebody wants to venture into some domain of area for his entrepreneurial journey or otherwise, okay, or he wants to seek advice in particular area for certain cases. Then if a platform is showing you like who are those people who are in that area, who are competent, so that kind of information he can directly connect to and talk to those people whom he finds the right information, and then I think that will have win-win for helping each other, and if there is a need, they can even collaborate at a later stage if they want to, and all this is possible. So I think having a platform and connecting based on the competencies is like for professional growth would be one of the core vertical.
Thank you.
Can we develop a mechanism whereby we can stay connected? In the sense, we are already connected by chapters and all that. Now, suppose anywhere, wherever I am, whether in Hubli or anywhere, can we develop something wherein I will have, you can say app or whatever, wherein I know who is within say 1 kilometer, 5 kilometers, 10 kilometers, if I need any help or something like that. So I can just fall back and just contact you, something like that.
Yeah.
So maybe it can just be included so that it will help.
They should respond on the specific thing.
A request to everyone to make yourself on 16th. Timing we will announce. So whatever you have got in your mind, you will get an answer on 16th September on school day. Whatever ideas, everything that has already been discussed by Ashok sir, and committees have been formed. Since 3 months they are working. On 16th, it will be launched by one very big personality, which when it is announced. So AJEETS website will be launched on 16th September, which incorporates all your aspirations. So ಇದನ್ನು ಹೇಳಬಾರ್ದಿತ್ತು, ಬಟ್ ಮುಂಚೆ ಹೇಳ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ಯಾಕೆಂದ್ರೆ ಮತ್ತೆ ನಾಳೆ ನೀವೆಲ್ಲ ದಿನೇಶ್ ಸರ್ ನಾನು ಮುಂಬೈಯಲ್ಲಿದ್ದೀನಿ ಅಲ್ಲಿದ್ದೀನಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಬಾರ್ದು ಅಂತಂದು 16 ಪ್ಲೀಸ್ ಮೇಕ್ ಯುವರ್ ಸೆಲ್ಫ್ ಫ್ರೀ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಸ್ಪ್ರೆಡ್ ದಿಸ್ ಅಕ್ರಾಸ್. ಇಟ್ ವಿಲ್ ಬಿ ಲೈಕ್ live telecast, and he is trying to make it a big event. So Prakash, it is already taken care. Thank you.
No, sir. That was not particular to AAA. But like I said, in the government, you already have a lot of policies which take a lot of time to implement. So you have a lot of legit entrepreneurs here. If you can guide or form some sort of guidance or platform where these can be implemented very urgently, particularly with this, then it will be helpful for the people who take it. It can be a pilot project, it can be a demonstration project. And once it is demonstrated, like government ಹಿಂದೆ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದು ಮುಂದೆ ಸಾಗ್ತದೆ. If we can demonstrate something, the other people easily copy. So So your guidance, if probably you have something on that, it will be helpful.
Yeah, we'll discuss that, yes.
COVID is around waiting. Otherwise, want to go for workshop. Workshop every month on one topic. We come and address, and there will be individual involvement. That is what our main purpose is. One-to-one interact about the alumni. When you all sit together under a round table, one topic or maatadtara, then we have some discussion, workshop type. Now, Master contribute madadare. So you can grow. Main hour is to grow and develop AAA. And that bondage should be nearer, closer. Recently, ಬಂದವರು ಗುರ್ತನೇ ಇಲ್ಲರಿ ಲೇಟ್ ಅಂತ ಅಂಥವ್ರು ಹಿಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಬಂದು ಕೂಡಿಸ್ಕೊಂಡು we have to train them up.
Yes.
That is our main purpose.
Sir, actually, the AAA formation and institutionalization of AAA, as Sir said, Ashok Darwad sir is the right person, and he has already progressed a lot on that front. So I have been involved with the Davangere chapter previously in organizing 2 AJEETS meets, and first time we were totally clueless as to, and then it was like picking up something from somebody, the networking connection and raising funds for the 7 year and all that. So once we institutionalize, whenever we organize a program, so the whole network can be accessed in a proper manner and the event be made successful. In fact, Davangere chapter first time we had surplus money, and then by the time we organized the second chapter, whatever we had saved has gone out because the number of the turnout was not as per our expectation. So with regard, as a response to the diminishing physical meeting at the OBI level, at the across the AAA level has reduced, but my view is that at the batch level everybody is getting connected in a much more deeper manner as well as at a much more frequency. That is one of the reasons which has made which has reduced the presentation at the main program. So at AAA, I think we will have to address that also, and probably we will have to give a lot of scope and space for the batches to meet. That's where the real fun is there. So otherwise, people think that this is one similar, some serious program going there. We come here for our own this thing. So somewhere we will have to address that. And the second thing is about the communication between the chapters was very less. So my experience, especially when we were part of the Davangere chapter organizing, so I can do anything within the alumni, within the AJEETS. I got limited network. So the whole success of the program will only depend on that network. So now with the AAA coming in, probably we'll solve that, address that problem also to some extent. And another thing that is another trend that I have seen among the AJEETS is that batch level trusts are also come up. So it is not only integration of the AJEET chapters, but also how do we give space for the batch level trust. For example, my own batch has created a trust, and we have created almost like 15 lakh corpus. And we started with the intention of financing the economically weak boy who has already joined the school. So we learned that there are a couple of students, after joining the school, they are unable to pay the fees and they drop out. So with the help of the teachers, we didn't get good support from the principal, but we were successful in getting support through the teachers, and we identified and supported some 8 to 10 students already, and that program is continuing. And so at AAA, we will have to address this issue also of accommodating the batch level trust. I heard that I think 4 or 5 more batches also have created trust. And some people have directly donated and then they have closed the issue. So we will have to consider this. And main, I mean, the other trend that has already been seen after the COVID and reduction in response to this is going digital or going virtual. So there probably everybody will have to get used to it, because this is only first time we have done the virtual meet, and going forward 2023 will be the second one. So we should take more steps towards the support activity for everyone to participate in the virtual meets. So these are the points that I want to make. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir, I'll just add my short experience.
Yeah.
Anybody else? My experience. See, 6 months back, almost 7-8 months back, though I was in training for last 14-15 years, okay, I was not known to the audience who are not connected to it. So I came out with a YouTube channel. Right? And in 6 months' time, almost 12,500 people are on my channel now. Okay? And I'm surprised I get connections from throughout India. Other day I was so surprised. This Kolluru Mukambika temple. I never imagined that I'll go there. Right? The president of Kolluru Mukambika temple has listened to one of the videos, and he says, "Sir, your services are required, and you need to train all our institutions, including the temple staff." Of course, I'm already getting tensions now. Temple staff, what to do? Right. So what I'm feeling is the YouTube channel that we have, sir, that has to be, empowered in a big way. And I suggest that, we need to shortly stop 100 Ajeets who have made a difference and make their videos for 20 minutes. Because online span of attention is not more than 10 minutes actually. 20 minutes, only highlighting, discussing with them and saying this is what it is, this is what it is, this is what it is, and they also answer some questions. Then this can network and help one Ajeet somewhere who can definitely contact them and close it. So this networking will make a huge difference as far as the new age is concerned.
TED Talks, we can have Ajeet Talks.
Like TED Talks, like small Ajeet Talks, 10-15 minutes, not more than that. 10 minutes is the best. Let them tell what they are doing so that somebody gets connected and they take it forward. This is one. Second good point that I have learned during COVID times, because I attended a lot of training programs and all, where there are thousands of people who attended that programs. So in the Zoom call, when they do Zoom, they have breakout rooms to create this energy among Ajeets, all Ajeet Association. So they say breakout rooms, 5 people, they come into those breakout rooms and they can discuss for 10-15 minutes. So suppose we have 500 people gathered in a Zoom call, and if they say breakout rooms, I'll go to that room where I may meet Talwai sir, or I may meet sir, okay, or I may meet a junior. They will spend 15-20 minutes or half an hour discussing something. Right? That creates an energy for AAA. Because they understand, hey, connection makes a difference. They exchange their numbers or they share their feelings. So this has to be done. These are the two things.
This is now on 16th September. You need to one clarification. The trusts have been created, that's fine. But there has to be a guiding light in the trust, in the sense that whoever is, you give it to the school, but you have to define the terms and conditions you have to. The terms of references are very important. Otherwise, it is child's play to dip into the corpus. Is it serving the right purpose? And we have to define criteria and parameters. Yes. That is very important. Otherwise, you are applying a dangerous
Association as a company.
Okay. Maltesh.
Yes, sir. Just press that button. Press that.
He can tell you how Ashok sir is proposing to getting into formation of AAA. Just in 2 minutes I'll explain. For every aspect of formation of AAA, Arvind sir, he has formed a separate committee where he is not at all concerned with what to do and all. It is that concerned committee, specialized committee like statute committee. It is headed by Satish Manchande. Now, AAA has to have an office. So, how it is to be decided, who has to do it? Major committee has to do it. Now, AKF, who is the chairman? He is the retired executive director of Indian Oil Corporation. They have to do it. Where Dinesh is one of the members. Now, statute committee Nagendra is there. So, each subcommittee for each work separately it is formed. Every month he conducts meeting, Zoom meeting of working committee chairman and secretaries, finding out, integrating. Now all that trust, everything Nagendra, Dr. Kulwad committee has been formed. They will study how many trusts are there, what is that. Then they give the recommendation. After all this committee gives the recommendation, then he has formed a AJEETS assembly. So AJEETS assembly is what? Is consisting of first batch representative to the last 2020 pass out representative, plus another 80 members. So all these, whatever recommendation will be uploaded in the concerned group batch, WhatsApp batch. You can give suggestion to again to the committees. ಅವರೆಲ್ಲ ಆಗಿ ಆ ಫೀಡ್ಬ್ಯಾಕ್ ತಗೊಂಡಾದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಸರ್ ದೇ ಫಾರ್ಮ್ ಎ ರೆಕಮೆಂಡೇಶನ್ ಅಂಡ್ ದೆನ್ ಇಟ್ ವಿಲ್ ಬಿ ಪುಟ್ ಟು ದ AJEETS assembly to again give their point of view. Only after deliberation, AAA structure will be formed. Otherwise, it is not a monopolistic, somebody decides, illa sir. So, Shigam sir,
there are already 9 bulletins that he has
sir. Next, ನೀವು ಯಾವ ಸಬ್ ಕಮಿಟಿಗೆ ಹೆಡ್ ಆಗ್ತೀರಾ ಹೇಳ್ರಿ ಸರ್. ವಿ ರಿಕ್ವೆಸ್ಟ್ ಯುವರ್ ಸರ್ವಿಸ್.
Sardar Patel has to dominate.
ಇನ್ನೂ ಆಗಿಲ್ಲ ಸರ್ ಸದರ್. ಸೊ ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಅಬ್ಸಲ್ಯೂಟ್ಲಿ ಡೆಮೋಕ್ರೆಟಿಕ್ ಥಿಂಗ್. ಸೊ ನಿಮ್ಗೆಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಅವಕಾಶ ಸಿಗ್ತದೆ ಸರ್, ಹಿಂಗೆ ಮಾಡಿರಿ. ಬಟ್ ಮೈ ರಿಕ್ವೆಸ್ಟ್ ಏನಪ್ಪ ಅಂದರೆ, ನಿಮಗೆ ಈಗ ನೋಡ್ರಿ ಇಷ್ಟು ಜನ ಬಂದರು, ಅರ್ಧ ಖಾಲಿ ಆಯ್ತು. ನಮಗೆ ಕುತ್ಕೊಂಡು ಕೇಳೋ ಪೇಷನ್ಸು ಇಲ್ಲ. ನಮ್ಮ ಮಹೇಶ್ ಹೇಳಿದೆ 20 ನಿಮಿಷ ಆದಮೇಲೆ ಈ ಮೊಬೈಲ್ BP ಇರೋಕ್ಕೆ ಶುರುವಾಗ್ತದೆ. ಬಟ್ ಬಿಲೀವ್ ಮೀ ನಾಗೇಂದ್ರ, ಪ್ರಕಾಶ್, ನಿಮ್ಮ ಮಕ್ಕಳಿಗೆ ಬೈ ಚಾನ್ಸ್ ಅಜಿತ್ ಹುಡುಗ ಅಂತ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಮಗಳಿದ್ರೆ, ಅಜಿತ್ ಹುಡುಗ ಅಂದರೆ ಯು ವಿಲ್ ಬಿ ಥ್ಯಾಂಕಿಂಗ್ AAA ಆಲ್ ಯುವರ್ ಲೈಫ್. ಎಸ್, ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಆಫ್ AAA ಐ ಫೌಂಡ್ ಎ ವಂಡರ್ಫುಲ್ ಅಜಿತ್ ಸನ್ ಇಲ್ಲ ಆರ್ ಅಜಿತ್ ಡಾಟರ್ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಈಗ ಹುಡುಗಿಯರು ಬರ್ತಾರೆ. ಸೊ ಯಾರ್ಯಾರು ದಿನೇಶ್ ಮಕ್ಕಳು ದೊಡ್ಡವರಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಹುಡುಗರು ಯಾರು ಇಲ್ಲ, ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ಮನೋಜು ಹೋದ. ಈಗ ಅವನ ಮಗಗೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಸೈನಿಕ್ ಸ್ಕೂಲ್ ಹುಡುಗಿನೂ ಚಾನ್ಸ್ ಇದೆ. ಸೊ AAA, believe me, all of us can be a very big building of status in the society. I request all of you to please join in making Basura Shetter's ಕೂದಲು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ black and make him achieve at least 100 crore turnover in chili business. Thank you. Ashok sir, final ನಿಮ್ಮದೇ ಎಷ್ಟೋ ಡೌಟ್ ಇರ್ತಾವೆ, ಏನೇನೋ ಇರ್ತಾವೆ. ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಅಶೋಕ್ ಸರ್ ಅವರ ಲೀಡರ್ಶಿಪ್ಪಿಗೆ ಒಂದು ಸರ್ ಜಿಪಳ್ಳಿ ಸರ್, ನೀವು ನಾನು ಹೇಳ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ, ಈ ಕತೆ ಹೇಳ್ಕೊಂಡು ನೀವು ಹೇಳ್ತೀರಿ. ಬಟ್ ರಾಮನ ಲೀಡರ್ಶಿಪ್ಪು ಕೃಷ್ಣನ ಲೀಡರ್ಶಿಪ್ ವ್ಯತ್ಯಾಸ ಇದೆ. ಶ್ರೀರಾಮಚಂದ್ರ ವಾನರನ್ನ ಲೀಡ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಕ್ಕೆ ಮುಂದೆ ಇದ್ದಂತೆ ಸರ್. ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಪರಮಾತ್ಮ ಎಲ್ಲ ಬುದ್ಧಿವಂತರಿದ್ದದ್ದಕ್ಕೆ ಹಿಂದೆ ಇದ್ದಂತೆ. ಸೊ ಎಲ್ಲ ಬುದ್ಧಿವಂತರನ್ನೇ ಮುಂದೆ ತಳ್ಳಿ ಯುದ್ಧ ಗೆದ್ದಂತೆ. ಹಾಗೆ ಅಶೋಕ್ ಸರ್ ಹೇಳಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಮಾತೇಶ್, ಐ ಆಮ್ ಬಿಹೈಂಡ್ ಲೈಕ್ ಕೃಷ್ಣ, ಆಲ್ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ವರ್ಡ್ಸ್ ಅರ್ಜುನ, ಭೀಮ ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಮುಂದಾಗ್ತಾರೆ. ನಂದೇನು ಪಾತ್ರ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಆಯುಧ ಇಲ್ಲ, ರಾಜ್ಯ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಸೈನ್ಯ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಬಟ್ ಮಾರ್ಗದರ್ಶಕನಾಗಿ ಯಾವುದೇ ಅಧಿಕಾರದ ಆಸೆ ಇದ್ದಂಗೆ ನಾನು ನಿಭಾಯಿಸ್ತೇನೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಈಗ ಅವ್ರ ಮಾತು ಕೇಳಿದರೆ, ಸರ್ ಇದು ಲೈವ್ ಇದೆ ಸರ್, ಈ ಮಾತು ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಅಜಿತ್ಗಳಿಗೆ ಕೇಳಿಸುತ್ತೆ. ನಿಮ್ಮ ಭಾವನೆಗಳನ್ನು ಹಂಚ್ಕೊಂಡು ಕೇಳ್ತೀವಿ ಸರ್.
Thank you, Maltesh, for your very visionary words, I must say. Yeah. They can't listen. Okay. Yeah, first I would like to thank all my seniors here on the stage with me, and they have given a very clear-cut advice, and there's a lot of content and meaning in what they have said. And thank you all for various issues that you have raised. You have expressed confidence in AAA. You have said that you want AAA, and you also said what you want from AAA. We already are AAA. We're already AAA, and it is thanks to a lot of seniors who have made this possible over the last 40 years. I would not like to start reciting names because there are so many people who have done it from across the country. And thanks to their efforts and thanks to the Ajit spirit, or as they call esprit de corps, we are already a very robust network. And Ajit's network of fraternity is homogeneous, notwithstanding the intrusion of diversities that our country brings in. As our senior Commodore Shigam said, denominations. There are a lot of denominations at individual levels. Yet, when it comes to Ajit fraternity, all those things become nothing. They all vaporize. So Ajit by itself is a denomination. You know, at my office in Delhi, somewhere this issue had come up. Later on, very subtly, one of my very senior officer, who is an additional secretary, asked me, "Sir, is this Ajit any?" Sorry, I told him. He said, "Is it any caste in Karnataka?" I said, "No." I have to explain to what this Ajit is, you know. So that is the robustness of the word Ajit. Now what we are trying to do is to institutionalize that. I had a 45 minutes telephonic discussion with Commodore Arvind Shigam 2 months back. So he gave some very straightforward advice. One of them was that we need to have parameter-based, criteria-based decisions. And then he also told me that we should have equality of opportunities for everybody. See, now these two things itself, they set a lot of expectation from the Ajit's body. Now when we coined the word institutionalization at the Belgaum meet, you know, it's like this was, now Belgaum meet has become a, a center stage of the entire Ajit movement, let me tell you. It was under the presidency of our senior Sri S.G. Patil. We had Mr. Vishwanath Patel, we had Devanand Bagewadi, we had Colonel Ishwar Gurgandi, and unfortunately, of course, General Mirji was not able to join because of other commitments. Even Mr. Gopal Vasur was supposed to come, but he could not come. But then, it turned out to be a cornerstone for the entire Ajit movement. It was there at that place that what we had been talking about AAA organization in 2023 expanded itself to building an institution for the AAA. So today it is institutionalization that is the center stage, and celebration of AAA 2023 is on the sidelines. When I say sideline, not neglected, but it will come to center stage in due course. So this new terminology has entered into Ajit lexicon. So Maltesh keeps telling me that we have introduced a lot of new words into the Ajit lexicon. One is, for example, class volunteer representative, Ajit's assembly, then vision, mission, core values. So many such new terminologies are there. So why institutionalization? I would request everybody who is on the virtual platform also to concentrate on this. Just as a nation grows from the village, Ajeet's body is now evolving from just about 8 Ajeets in 1967 to today 5,000 plus Ajeets spread across the global landscape. So there is an age range from 18 to 70. And the geographical spread is not anymore 10 square kilometers of Vijayapur town, but it is the entire earth. Our Ajeets are there in every continent. When this happens, and when in future we are going to add more and more number, like India's population, Ajeet's population is only going to grow in times to come. And then new aspect of that will be Ajeetas along with Ajeets. So imagine the diversity that we will have within our homogeneous body called Ajeets. We will certainly need to work based on certain parameters, which you said very, very validly. In a Gram Panchayat or a village, it is based on trust where somebody is a mama, somebody is a kaka, somebody is Dodappa, irrespective of what caste one belongs to, there everybody is either a mama or a kaka or a Dodappa, you know? Right? Everything works on trust there. I know you are good, I know you work for me, you protect me. But then when it comes to a district, this can't happen. We don't know how many villages are there in a district, who is there, who is not there. So likewise today, a 2020 pass out does not know who is 1967 pass out or the reverse. And then when you are divided again across the time space, a time zone and space, you will not know many things. Hence we need to ultimately work based on systems. It is a system that will hold us. And that system is the core of institution. When you do not have systems, there cannot be objectivity, there cannot be transparency. And if there is no objectivity and there is no transparency, there cannot be trust. Right? Because then I will consider for the same situation in one way for X and another way for Y. So when this happens, the person concerned, particularly the person who feels he has been negated, he feels hurt, he feels, why should I be a Ajeet? Hence we need to have equality of opportunity for all Ajeets. Equality before law, here the law is our constitution that we will adopt. So the short point is, if we want every Ajeet to feel that he is a member of this Ajeet family, that has got an equal opportunity to be heard and to share and to contribute, then we need systems. So this institutionalization is nothing but putting in place systems, procedures, which will bring in objectivity in decision making, which will bring in transparency, the decision taken and the actions implemented. It will also simultaneously enable everybody to realize his or her potential. So all these things will happen provided we build the process of doing it. And what we are going to do now, that we will have first a statute for ourselves, which will be a AAA statute. A statute registered under the State Societies Registration Act. That act will give us the entire latitude between which we can work. For example, should we collect money or not? That will tell us. Can the class batch collect money? Yes or no? If it says yes, collect. If it says no, don't collect. It says no, and yet some batch collects it, then he is not collecting for Ajeets. Ajeets have nothing to do with that. Okay? Example I am giving you. Which means that the central statute will define very clearly what is the relationship between the chapters and the central authority, what is the relationship between the class and the central authority, What is the relationship between the individual Ajit with the central authority? So the entire organic relationship of the Ajit spread across the globe, from the junior most to the senior most, will be defined. So we will be working in perfect symphony, in consonance with what the bylaws will say under the AAA. Second one, for purpose of transparency, it very clearly fix the responsibility on the people who are to take a decision, who are to implement it, and who are also accountable. Because without accountability, there cannot be authority. Otherwise it becomes discretion. I cannot use a AAA platform to expand my personal desires. Because whatever has been done for AAA, it is for AAA. So that means we need to distinguish between me as an Ajit, me as HUBBALLI-DHARWAD, and me as a AAA functionary, for example. So those clear distinctions will will come. So once you have that statute, it is in a way intangible. Every law is intangible. Like our soul, it is intangible. The tangibility to the AAA will come provided there is an office, live office functioning. That means there is something that we can touch. It may be an office building. There may be, it is something that we can feel through the people sitting there and telling us that I can help you or I cannot help you. So we need a live office, which we do not have so far. Then the third one is that there has to be a live management functionary. So how do you create that executive body, advisory body, whatever you call it under the statute? Everything will be defined under the statute. So we will continuously have people to work for it. But simultaneously, how do they come there? Are they going to be anointed by somebody? Are they going to drop down from the heaven? Or are they going to simply take over in a, in what is it called as in a coup d'etat type of manner? No. We will have a system. Once again, maybe elections, for example. So transparently, it may happen that the 2020 batch board becomes the chairman of AAA. Maybe become. No, we don't know. I'm just giving an example. It all depends how much confidence is going to win. We can have a 43-year-old president of France, or we can have an 88-year-old president of Argentina. It can happen. Democracy can throw up anybody in anything. So the short point is that we will have systems, right? Once you have this office where you can go and touch and say this is from where the AAA statute is working, but how do you know that it is working? So how do we know it's working? It depends upon what services you as Ajits are going to get. That is also a part of institutionalization. It cannot be discretion that okay, suddenly today Nagendra has become active, we will start something. Maltesh has become active, we will start something. We are not going to have whims and fancies. So we will build institutions for delivery. For example, we will have a strong Ajits entrepreneurship forum. How do you promote entrepreneurship? Because that is in sync with the country's demand for creating jobs. What kind of hand-holding can be done? What kind of knowledge creation can be done? What kind of advocacy can be done? What kind of offline connectivities can be supported? That is one institution as a part of the AAA. Ajit's Knowledge Forum, sharing of knowledge, diffusion of knowledge, catered to different age groups. That is one institution. So we may have several such fora, Ajit's Trust, for example. But Ajit's Trust has to also work in perfect consonance with what has been laid down in the AAA. As we are saying, is money contributed by everybody. So naturally, it will also work in sync with what AAA says. So we will have a series of institutions which in a way are subsouls of that particular AAA as a larger soul. So then people know, yes, AKF is working, AEF is working, Ajit's, for example, Sports Forum is working. So we will keep on having based on how much we can carry forward. So institutionalization, in very simple words, is to have a platform which belongs to everybody, which is for everybody, and which is by everybody. So that will be the principle of our democracy. Ajit's AAA platform is a platform by the Ajits, for the Ajits, okay,
and what is the other one I said? By, for and yeah, of the people. Okay, so we will define it like that. But then we don't want to be selfish. We do not want to confine this whole thing only to the Ajeets. We would like to go to the next, next ring and say we'll include Ajeets families, Ajeets children, for example. Ajeets other family members, they may need support. Because knowledge is not something which is compartmentalized. If we are speaking today, anybody can hear it, and anybody may get inspired. Like today, he came to know, and one boy from my village has come all the way here. He saw in some WhatsApp group that there's some talk like this, and he has come from Gokak to, I'm just saying how knowledge diffuses. Then we'll go further beyond the families and include the general society. Like Ajeet's Knowledge Forum is now open to anybody to listen. In fact, we got maximum comments from non-Ajeets. Interesting thing is, maximum comments on the first lecture by Captain Gopinath came from non-Ajeets. And today, in fact, yesterday and today we had our agriculture college class get together. And around 40 my classmates had come home for a lunch. As they left, they gave me one warning: please don't miss sharing your link next time in our college group. So how this is spreading? And we don't mind, after all, it's not going to tax us extra. So we will create these kind of bodies. Now my request to all of you and everybody who is listening on the virtual platform is that you have to be proactive. It is not that one or two people write something and others are sleeping. If we want true democracy to function, if we are seeking for comments, respond. You want to give a proactive comment, so moto, give a comment. But what I find is many a time is that we do not get proper response. So we want response that is sort of dominating. We must say how many comments have come. And you keep on giving suggestions. So it has to be a proactive democracy. And we want to do everything through very transparent means, and therefore, as Maltesh was saying, various committees have been made, and whenever committees have been made, we have tried to see who's interested. We have sought for volunteership. Many times we keep on putting who's volunteering to do these things. Some people say I want to do, but many people, are silent. So silence, as you are saying, sir, very nice, important. That is a great statement. That silence itself, either it is a dissent, or it is that I don't care, but what does it mean? So let us make it a very active body, and our vision will be to make our alumni association one of the best in the world. It can become. In fact, at Belgaum meet, one of the participants said that Ajeet's body is no less than any of the IITs, IIMs in terms of intellectual capacities, in terms of commitments. In fact, a school association is much more strong than a college union. Because they are, engineering association, only engineers, they will say engineers are the builders of nation. Doctors will say who are the sustainers of health of the nation. But here Ajeets can say, I am the producer of food, I am the processor of food, I'm everything, anything, right? So any school association for that matter is extremely diverse, extremely strong and robust. So we have got that strength, and so our aim will be to really dream big and make it one of the best associations. But when we say it is not just for socializing, the socializing is incidental. We would like socialization, along with that we want constructive relationships. We want constructive engagements. So that's what we are looking forward to. And to just share with you all, at least some small seeds that are germinating in our mind, at least in some of our minds, is, can Ajeet's Alumni Association become the first seed for connecting all the alumni associations of all the science schools that are existing today, and they'll come into operation tomorrow, because Honorable Prime Minister has said we'll have 100 science schools in times to come. That means we'll be a very huge body in times to come. The Rotary, the Rotarians may be here. The Rotary of today, which has now millions of members across the globe, was started by 5 people in Chicago, in 1909, because they came from villages for the first time to Chicago, a large city. They have not found anybody to talk to one another. So they just 4 or 5 people got together, went to a coffee shop, had coffee, and then they started meeting regularly every month to have coffee. Then they got into their head, why not we institutionalize it? You know? And they had the first meeting in 1921. And that's how it has begun. So we have taken 40 years to get an idea, not 1 year like Rotarians. We have taken 40 years to let that idea germinate in us that we need to institutionalize it. But today, it has come, better late than never. Can we also build an equivalent of Rotary Lions and make it a national organization in service of nation ultimately? But we will keep in mind, but we are saying that we will go step by step. So ultimately, Sainik School Bijapur should become the mother of all the Sainik schools in terms of building a platform for the boys and girls to serve the nation apart from serving their own fraternity and the schools. So just think of this, nothing is impossible. 10 years hence, we should have whatever name you want to give it. In service of Mother India, all the Sainik school students who have benefited from the government, from the exchequer of the common citizen, including the farmers, must unite to do something here and there and contribute to the nation building. That's the final vision. Okay? That is the final vision. So let us really commit ourselves. You may have, see, at personal level, you may like me, I may like you, or reverse. Personal likes and dislikes must be kept aside when you come here. Yes, it is bound to happen. All of us may not like each other, one another, may not love one another the same way. There will be smaller groups. It's all natural, nothing wrong in that. But when it comes to Ajit's body, please keep in mind that your loyalty is to Ajit's body. Those sub-loyalties must be forgotten. India became a slave only because of sub-loyalties. This is a big lesson we have to learn from history. It is very unfortunate that we were such a great country, we were enslaved by outsiders. So let us not give room for that. So Ajit's body must become one, not for any selfishness, not for any aggrandizement of any one particular person, 2 persons, 3 persons, 4 persons, but aggrandizement of Ajit's fraternity. And that aggrandizement also should not be selfish. It has to be in service of the Ajits, in service of the school, in service of the country, and possibly, as Prime Minister keeps saying, that we have a destiny to serve the world. In fact, Aurobindo has to, that India's destiny is to serve the world. It will become a guru of the world one day. So, I think that future we have. So Ajit's body can become part of that big stream that is going to flow. Okay? So let's all really work, and we will work selflessly. We will work with pure loyalty for school, and luckily we have very good seniors who are willing to give us directions, guidance. So we should take advantage of that. But the younger people have to work. You have to work. You have to soil your hands, tease your minds, and put your heart and soul into that thing. So let's all commit ourselves that by 2022, we'll have all the systems in place. We'll have all the required sub-platforms in place. When we celebrate 2023, that day we should answer ourselves, we should have to hold ourselves accountable. What we have done in these 2 years? It will be a final accountability. Let me close by saying that when we had the first experiment of private-public partnership for our Bangalore City Corporation under what is called Bangalore Agenda Task Force, for the first time we brought private sector people to be part of the management. Every 6 months we used to hold a public meeting. The CM used to be there. And that was, first is to tell the public, last meeting we promised you this much has happened, this much has not happened. And for the next one, what is the agenda? So that accountability is very, very important. So 2023, whichever month we will hold our celebrations, we will hold ourselves accountable and give a report card on what we have done. So if we want 200 marks on 100, each one has to contribute. Each one has to give a brick. So this is brick for building the AJEETS platform. So thank you very much. And I'm sure we can all do it with the kind of intellectual inputs we have, with the kind of professional knowledge we have, with the kind of camaraderie that we have, and with the kind of spirit that all of us are now showing. I'm sure we can. Today morning, in fact, our President Gopal also sent me a very beautiful message. And he said that you're all going to meet this evening, and I know the way it is going, I myself mesmerized, he told. So, so there is. Now let us keep that momentum. Many times we say it's easy to start, but difficult to sustain. So we have to continuously innovate to create that new fizz. Otherwise, when you open the bottle, the thing is there for some time, and then it fizzles up. No, we have to continuously come out with something new, so that is not as I say, flavor of the season. It is going to be a permanent taste of AAA. Okay. So this is for particularly youngsters. Well, we will, in 2023, we will pass on the baton to the next generation. You have given us the baton, we will give it to the next generation. It has to be continuous marathon, whatever it's called, whatever that is called, relay race. Relay race. So now we will see which leader is going to emerge. It's not that it will be because I like X, Y, Z, it will be, I don't know. Somebody has to show that talent and that maturity, that responsibility. So in 2023, the set of 8 to 10 boys who will come forward to take this will be those who will show that talent over the next 2 years. So let us see how many of you will be able to show us that. And I'm sure there will be. So make it difficult for us to choose 10 out of 100 leaders that will emerge in the next 2 years. So thank you very much. So it was a pleasure being with you all this evening, and rather a privilege. And we have now linked up Belgaum and Hubli chapters with now Davangere also. So next we will link it up with Bangalore, and then in Delhi and Pune. Okay? Thank you so much. Jagdish, thank you very much. And I think some of you sponsored it and you didn't want to be told.
So now I request Dinesh sir.
Good evening all. First of all, I'm quite very fortunate to be here, giving a lot of thanks. Ashok sir, whenever I hear from you, I always get goosebumps. Even the agriculture, that talk that you gave, actually, if an unemployed graduate in a village, typically they are BSc, BA passed, son of a farmer, they sit in the evening and talk about Bin Laden, Trump, all sort of things, but they don't want to do farming. And in fact, if you actually translate that into local languages, curricular languages, and publish it, in fact, and I'm sure you're going to transform a lot of these kids. And on their behalf, I really want to thank you. And in fact, we have to have that drive. That's a separate initiative we have to have. And I think, Jeevan sir, you should help me here. Is there something, I don't believe in numerology, but I think there is something in the name Ashok. And the way this AJEET on AAA, the way it is getting shaped up, I think we should soon have Republic Day kind of a celebration where we unite all these chapters and call it a Unification Day. That is something we have. And I think maybe on September 22nd, maybe that can be, or maybe another few days to come when we meet all these chapters, we should have that. And in fact, AJEET, I'll tell you, it is so powerful. Even my daughter started using AJEET name, started meeting, she's doing medicine and PhD, and she met some AJEETS faculty. Even the principal quoting, "I'm a daughter of an AJEET," and that's a power behind AJEETS. I think Ashok sir, new Muttidella Chinna agtade. Yakandre we started, Jagdish Nandi sir gave to the idea earlier. Shivprasad Kenneth sir we wanted to felicitate him on a retirement day, and we called you as a chief guest on that day. That became so successful, and so many people appreciated that. I think wherever you are there, in fact, I was attending a meeting a couple of days back, official, there were a few ministers, Shobha Karandlaje, Murugesh Nirani, many IAS officers, I was actually part of it. The kind of respect Ashok sir has, having him driving this initiative, we are very, very fortunate, let me tell you. And in that meeting, I'm telling you, there was somebody who came with the blessings of a minister, giving some proposal, but sir was so blunt. He called spade a spade and said, this is possible, this is not possible, and that was really, really appreciated. So I think we have had a great day today. Thanks everyone. Thank you, sir, and Arvind Shikhan sir, Commodore Arvind Shikhan sir. I would like to visit your farm. I heard a lot about you. Jai Kisan, after Jai Jawan, that's a great.
You're very grounded. The same thing I just want to in future also, we should not be having this distance.
Sir, in fact, that is one suggestion actually I want to give. In fact, we in AJEET community, we have bankers, we have agriculture experts, there are so many agriculture graduates we have, and why not form an FPO? There is also support from government we can get, and there is a huge potential that we can create an FPO and serve the society. That's another thought, and maybe in the time to come. A.C. Patel sir, I'm meeting you for the first time, but I have seen you in Belgium chapter, the benchmark meet that we had. You see my dance going viral. Sir, nice having you. Quite an inspiring talk. And there are people behind the scene who don't want to be named. In fact, they are sponsoring this event. Thank you so much, sir. Jagdish Nandi sir, I know you're always inspiration. I have seen very closely, seen you working. You don't want to come in the front, but you always do a good job. And same with.
One thing, with your permission. Do you know the success of a drama or any big shows? Whether you appreciate hero or heroine or any villain, who is the most successful man? Who stands behind the screen is called? Jivana, no, prompter. Prompter has to behind the drama. From the first sequence to the last sequence, every word the hero forgets he will be prompting. So you have to give a very big hand, and all the success goes to him. Prompter and
in fact, it is there in his name. Jiva Tumbovane Jivanavara. So he puts life into all. And Hiramet sir and Urpati sir, thank you for being here, and nice hearing from you. And I know we are running late. Nimnath Desai sir, I was taking your name. Thanks for all. I don't know. Fine. We are, I think, running late. Thanks for being here. I know half of the crowd is gone, but there are. I could see a big number of people logged on to YouTube They were all watching. Still, there are around 15 to 20 people still watching. And thank you, everyone. And good night.